All right, let's dive into two worlds that are all about high stakes and tense pressure, trading and poker. But this isn't really about the money, it's about the mindset. We're going to look at how these arenas reveal the single biggest opponent any of us ever face, and that's the one looking back in the mirror. So, what's the common thread here? What really links a poker legend with a Wall Street wizard? You might think it's some genius level math skill, or nerves of steel, maybe a huge appetite for risk. But the real answer? Well, it's something way deeper, and it's probably not what you'd expect. Yeah, on the surface, it looks pretty straightforward, right? It's all about money, strategy, and risk. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The true masters, the ones who are still around after decades, they'll tell you the real game is completely internal. It's all about humility, emotional control, and the deep, and let's be honest, often difficult work of understanding your own psychology. So that's where we'll kick things off, with this idea of trading and poker as the ultimate mind game. These aren't just jobs. Think of them like powerful, real-time laboratories for studying how our minds behave under serious pressure, especially when both our money and our pride are on the line. This quote really gets to the heart of it. You can do everything right, have the perfect hand, the most well-researched trade, and you can still lose. Even pocket aces, the best hand you can possibly get in poker, lose sometimes. So the real lesson here isn't about trying to avoid loss. It's about making peace with uncertainty. You can control your process, but you can never, ever fully control the outcome. So if uncertainty is the name of the game, what's the biggest obstacle you have to navigate? Well, in these high-stakes arenas, your biggest rival isn't the person across the table or some faceless market. It's that voice inside your head. It's your ego. Think about it. We've all seen this, right? Somebody reads one article on crypto or watches a poker tournament on TV, and suddenly they're an expert. So where does all that unearned confidence come from? It's a universal human thing, and it's all driven by one powerful force. Our source material has a great name for this: the ego trip. It's that deep, almost primal need to be seen as smart, to be right, to get that recognition. And in fields that look kind of simple from the outside, like trading or poker, the ego sees this perfect shortcut to feeling validated. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it's believing that reading a book is enough. It's ignoring all the signs and all the evidence telling you you're wrong. It's giving these super strong opinions when you have barely any experience. And of course, it's that classic, disastrous move, revenge trading, furiously trying to win back money right after a loss. In every single one of these cases, it's the ego in the driver's seat, not your intellect. And this gets to a really crucial point. There is a huge gap between knowing the theory and actually applying it in the real world. Anyone can read a book that says, cut your losses short, but to actually click the button and take that loss, to swallow your pride when the market proves you wrong, and to do it calmly without getting all emotional, that is a completely different skill set. That right there is mastery. This leads us to an absolutely essential part of the journey. If you really want to master the mind game, you first have to master failure. You have to learn how to lose, because it's not the wins that teach you the most important lessons. It's the losses that forge real, lasting humility. Let's look at a real-world story from our source. The author had this gold trade he was incredibly confident about. He had a solid plan, everything looked great, but then panic. The market moved sharply against him. It recovered a bit, and then it happened again. In that one terrifying moment, the lesson hit him like a ton of bricks. His plan was fine, but his emotions were his biggest liability. And this is the key insight that gets forged in the fire of a painful loss. The market doesn't care about your brilliant opinion or how smart you think you are. Getting humbled, feeling that panic, and making it through to the other side, that's what kills the ego. It forces you to accept that you aren't really in control, and that humility is the only true antidote. This quote just sums it all up perfectly. You can read every book ever written, but absolutely nothing replaces the visceral, gut-punch lesson of a real loss. True learning comes from that pain, from picking yourself back up, and from having the persistence to just keep executing your process, day in and day out. So if we're trying to escape that ego trip, what are we aiming for instead? Well, that brings us to the breakthrough state that lies on the other side of that struggle, the incredible power of flow. You know the flow state. It's that magical feeling of being so completely absorbed in what you're doing that time just disappears. That nagging inner voice, the ego, it just goes quiet. You're just doing the thing for the love of the process itself. And according to our source, this is the ultimate form of fulfillment, way more powerful than any trophy or award could ever be. And here's the trap of that ego-driven path. Look, the danger isn't success itself. The danger is when success becomes your identity. It's when you stop being a person who trades and start seeing yourself only as a top trader. That label becomes this heavy crown, something you have to constantly defend, which ultimately just makes you brittle and terrified of failure. The alternative is just so much more freeing. It's about detaching yourself from the outcome, from the label, and instead finding pure joy in the craft itself. The daily puzzle of analyzing the market or the intellectual chess match of a tough poker hand. The fulfillment comes from the doing, not from the result or the title it might get you. And the payoff for making this shift? It's immense. We're not talking about fleeting happiness. This is deep, lasting fulfillment. It's what gives people incredible longevity in their fields. They're not driven by fame or money, because that stuff can fade. They're driven by a genuine love for the craft, and that allows them to finally step outside their own ego. All right, this brings us to our final section. What does this actually look like over an entire lifetime? Well, it requires a complete redefinition of what it even means to win. It's about creating a whole new endgame for your ambitions. And here we see two totally different paths you can take. On the left, you've got the ego-driven path. Your identity is tied to the trophy, to the spotlight. So when the fame fades and they can't compete at the highest level anymore, they burn out. They quit. But on the right, you see the master's path. Even after the spotlight is gone, they just keep playing the game they love. Because the reward was never the trophy, it was always the work itself. What's so fascinating is that this isn't some new age idea. This focus on process over outcome, on internal character over external validation, it's a cornerstone of ancient wisdom. You see it in stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, and you see it in the principles of the samurai, who saw perfecting their craft as a path to enlightenment. And this is the ultimate destination of that entire journey. It's a move away from all the complexity and anxiety of pride and ego, and toward the simplicity of just doing the work. That's where you find not only sustained mastery, but something that might be even more valuable, a real sense of inner peace. So we'll leave you with this question. Just take a look at your own life, your career, your hobbies, your passions, and ask yourself this. Are you playing to win, just chasing a title or a trophy, or are you playing for the love of the game?
Welcome to The Debate. Today, we're diving into the psychological demands of some really high-stakes fields. We're talking about trading, professional poker, these arenas where, as our source material details, it's not about strength, but about keeping your head straight in the face of just constant uncertainty.
Exactly. And the tension we're looking at today is what's the real key to not just surviving, but actually mastering these fields for the long haul?
Right. So the central question is this. Does sustained success, true longevity, hinge primarily on, let's say, rigorous discipline and the tactical suppression of your ego, which is really a form of active humility?
Or does it come from cultivating the flow state and a deeper intrinsic purpose, something you get through, genuine identity detachment?
I'm going to argue that humility, emotional control, and the often painful mechanical application of discipline, these are the absolute foundations. They're the primary drivers of longevity. They are your defense systems, plain and simple, that you need to survive the inevitable losses. Without them, flow is just a nice idea.
See, I'm coming at this from a slightly different angle. I'll grant you discipline is the prerequisite. It's the gatekeeper that stops you from, immediately blowing up your account. But I believe the sustained quality of longevity, the kind that lasts decades, is driven by moving beyond just managing the ego. It's about transcending it. It requires flow and finding purpose in the act itself.
That's an interesting frame, but I think we have to start with the raw, statistical reality of these fields. The material is very clear. They are, at their core, probability-based. You can have the best hand, the perfect trade setup, and you can still lose. That randomness is the constant source of pain, and it dictates what our primary defense has to be. So, the greatest threat to a trader or a poker player isn't a bad market. It's emotional failure. It's that feeling after a loss that feels, unfair. The material talks about this ego trip and, more importantly, revenge trading, that catastrophic impulse to win your money back immediately. This is precisely where discipline has to step in. It's the mechanism that forces you to stick to your plan, even when your ego is screaming at you to do something reckless.
Okay.
I absolutely agree that surviving volatility is non-negotiable. But my question is, what happens after that? What happens after 10, 20 years when the thrill of just surviving wears off? The goal can't just be coping with pain. It has to be about achieving, sustained mastery and maybe even fulfillment.
Well, fulfillment is a luxury if you're not in a game, but the source material explicitly says that true fulfillment comes from flow, and you get there by stepping outside his ego and thoughts. This shift from just managing your destructive impulses to actually escaping the ego entirely, that is the strategic solution for a decades-long career. Discipline alone, it just can't prevent the kind of burnout that comes from that constant grinding internal war. Look at the critical trap for people who burn out. They let success to become your identity. The Formula One driver who can't stand losing, the trader whose self-worth is tied to his daily profit. Flow is the way you detach from that identity. It makes your performance independent of whether you won or lost that day. You're moving from tactical ego management to a more philosophical ego transcendence. And that is the path to long-term endurance and, frankly, peace.
You make a compelling case for flow as a kind of long-term psychological goal. But I think you're overlooking where that ability to detach even comes from. The path to longevity is paved with some very hard lessons. The real difficulty is staying disciplined when you're failing, which the material says is the source of all real learning.
Okay, but at what cost?
Let's get specific about the threat. When a trader loses, they're dealing with massive cognitive dissonance. The gap between their perfect plan and the messy reality of the outcome. That dissonance fuels things like the sunk cost fallacy, the urge to chase your losses. And managing that, it's not a philosophical choice. It's an immediate existential requirement. It is an act of pure humility, a constant active check on the ego that says, I was wrong and I have to stick to my rules no matter how badly I want that money back.
I don't disagree that discipline is the immediate response, but let's question how sustainable that constant internal battle really is. If humility is just this painful, forced acceptance that you failed, how long can that last? The source material mentions people who quit when the fame or money fade. And that suggests that if your motivation is purely external, if the pain is the only thing forcing you to be humble, that engine is going to break down eventually.
Right.
And that's where intrinsic purpose, the kind you get from a flow state, comes in. It's the only thing that allows you to stay engaged, even at smaller scales or when you're facing a major drawdown. Humility forces you to follow the rules to manage the pain of a loss, but intrinsic purpose, it removes the need for that external validation in the first place, which is a much, much more robust defense over a 50-year career.
I think you're arguing that because discipline is painful, it must be unsustainable. I'd argue the pain is the necessary catalyst. The whole point of a disciplinary structure is to automate good habits, right? To make those difficult choices, like cutting a loss, less emotionally draining over time. When you apply it rigorously, you turn what was an emotional decision into just a boring procedural step.
I'm not sure it ever becomes boring for most people.
Well, it also counters specific biases, like anchoring. After you've had a few big wins, your ego anchors to this idea that you're invincible. Discipline is the only tool that forces you to stick to rules based on long-term data, not the emotional high of your current winning streak. And that rigor is the foundation for long-term health.
But let's clarify the difference between suppression and detachment, because I think this is the core disconnect. Discipline is trying to suppress the ego's immediate desires. Detachment, or flow, is stepping outside of the ego entirely. If you define yourself by your P&L, discipline will always feel like you're fighting yourself, an internal war that never ends.
Okay.
So how does simple suppression fix that deep psychological need for recognition, the ego trip, as the author calls it? Flow, on the other hand, is described as being like meditation. It's a release. It lets you see the outcome, win or loss, as just feedback, a statistical event with no personal meaning attached. The long-term goal isn't to win the internal war, it's to realize the war itself is optional.
I'm just not convinced, because I think you're reversing the cause and effect here. The flow state isn't a starting point. It's a byproduct of deep, rigorous mastery and emotional control. You can't just decide to achieve a detached meditative state. You have to earn it by first mastering the emotional storms that discipline is designed to suppress.
But is it just about suppression?
Think about a musician. They have to endure the boring, mechanical repetition of scales. That's the discipline, before they can achieve that effortless, intuitive performance, which is flow. The market doesn't just grant you a flow state. You have to earn it through the repetitive, humble, and often boring adherence to your own rules.
That's a great metaphor, but I think the distinction is whether that discipline stays an external rule or becomes an internal motivation. For the musician, the scales are a means to an end, making beautiful music. That's the intrinsic purpose. If they only practice scales to avoid being punished by their teacher, they'd quit the second the pressure was off. And that brings us back to the material's main point. You have to find fulfillment in the act itself. If the only goal of your discipline is survival, avoiding financial ruin, then the moment your external needs are met, that discipline becomes meaningless. Flow provides the motivation that makes you want to keep practicing the scales, not out of fear, but out of love for the craft. Longevity as mere survival is not enough. Longevity as a meaningful career, that demands purpose.
Look, longevity means consistent execution and surviving the inevitable drawdown. The material points out that people learn a few ideas and believe they understand everything, a classic cognitive arrogance. Discipline is the only thing that counters that initial hubris. It forces you to stick to your risk management even when you feel invincible after a good run. It's about countering confirmation bias. When you're winning, your brain looks for evidence that you're a genius. Discipline is the external check that forces you to look at the process, not just the outcome.
I agree that discipline counters that initial arrogance, but let's consider the level of mastery the author eventually gets to. Norman compliments his fifth book for being informationally dense, and he links it explicitly to stoic philosophy, where every part has equal value. Now, that is not just risk management. That's a comprehensive worldview.
A worldview that comes from experience.
Yes, but it suggests that true mastery requires a deeper, more complex understanding of meaning and self-awareness. And that is achieved through flow and purpose, not just the mechanical, defensive application of discipline. Seeing every part as equal value, the small win, the catastrophic loss, that requires a level of ego transcendence that goes way beyond just suppressing the urge to revenge trade. It requires a fundamental shift in your identity that only the pursuit of flow can really provide. You stop being a winner or a loser and start being a student of probability. That's the only way to see all outcomes as just data, stripped of emotion.
And I have to return to the practical reality. The highest philosophical truth is useless if you've already wiped out your capital. I absolutely acknowledge the importance of intrinsic motivation. I do. But I have to reassert that the foundational, the most immediate threat is the failure to manage your emotions. You have to survive the storm before you can enjoy the calm. Humility and discipline are the tools that keep you in the game long enough for flow to even matter. Discipline is the constant, robust defense that keeps the ego from running the show.
And I will maintain that discipline is the essential gatekeeper, but it is fundamentally insufficient to explain sustained longevity, not when the external rewards fade and the psychological weight of constant effort becomes too much. The material is very clear that true fulfillment, the peace that comes with a long career, comes from flow, from acting for the sake of the act itself. Discipline ensures you don't glow up. Flow ensures you don't burn out and quit the game entirely. And that, to me, is the higher achievement.
We have certainly explored the crucial tension here between defensive psychology and philosophical motivation. The source material provides compelling evidence that the road to mastery really does require both robust defenses against the ego and a strategic search for detachment.
Indeed, whether you prioritize the immediate necessary emotional defenses you get from humility and discipline, or the deep psychological sustainability that's offered by flow and purpose, the material shows that both are critical. It really shows that the long-term professional must first master the mechanics of control. only to then realize that true mastery lies in transcending that very control.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep today into two really high-stakes worlds.
Worlds that, on the surface, look like they're all about one thing, right?
Exactly. Just maximizing profit, minimizing risk. I'm talking about professional financial trading and high-stakes poker.
Yeah, and most people, when they look at those fields, they just see the money. They see the glamour, maybe the stress, the headlines.
Right, the volatility. But the listener who sent this material in, they weren't interested in the cash or the chips. They were interested in the mind.
Which is where the real game is played.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to, pull out the foundational psychological and, frankly, philosophical insights that connect these two fields.
These really high-pressure, often very misunderstood fields.
We're looking past all the external stuff, the metrics, and trying to get to the core of what builds real mastery, and crucially, what builds longevity. The ability to do this for decades, completely divorced from ego.
Yeah, we have some sources here that really drill down on those parallels. And they're not focused on strategy. They're focused on the, let's call it the mental architecture.
I like that. The architecture that lets someone thrive, not just succeed once.
Right, because the alternative is burning out. You see it all the time.
Yeah.
Someone has a brilliant couple of years, and then they're just gone.
That's the key, isn't it? Longevity versus burnout. That's the whole ball game.
It is. Because most careers, they reward a kind of linear effort. You put in the hours, you get the promotion, you gain more security.
It's predictable.
It's predictable.
Yeah.
But trading and poker are merciless. They're just absolutely merciless environments because they demand this sustained emotional equilibrium while you're being constantly hit with randomness.
You're just taking punches from every direction.
Constantly. They force you to confront probability, to confront your own ego, and this really harsh reality that knowing what to do, your competence is completely meaningless if you don't have emotional control under pressure.
So it's not enough to be smart.
Not even close. We're essentially looking at like an accelerated course in self-knowledge. The market or the poker table, it's like a mirror, and it reflects every single one of your psychological flaws right back at you.
I love that framing. The market as a mirror, that really highlights how personal this whole struggle is.
It is. So this deep dive, it's really about finding a sustained psychological peace, which, ironically, is the only way you can get consistent profitability.
You can't conquer the market until you conquer yourself.
You absolutely can't.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's establish the fundamental nature of these games. Because if you're coming into this world, or really any high-stakes, probability-based field, and you're expecting certainty...
You're already done for.
You're already psychologically doomed. That inescapable reality of uncertainty, that's the first big hurdle we have to get over. So that's the foundation. Let's talk about discipline and how you deal with that uncertainty.
Well, that's where humility comes in. And it's a lesson that is taught brutally. It often costs the student a significant amount of money to learn it.
The price of admission.
The price of admission. We have to start with this core fact. These are fundamentally probability-based games. They are not deterministic.
What's the difference exactly?
Well, if you're a plumber and you follow the rules of physics in the process, the leak gets fixed. A equals B equals C. If you're a trader and you do perfect economic analysis, perfect technical analysis, the market is not guaranteed to do what you think it will do.
There's no guarantee of a reward.
None. The foundational lesson these fields teach is that even if you execute a trade or a poker hand with 100% textbook perfection, you are still going to lose a significant percentage of the time. The structure of the game dictates it.
And for a lot of people, that's a really hard concept to accept, especially people from, high-achieving backgrounds, academic backgrounds.
Absolutely. They're used to a direct correlation. I put in X effort, I apply Y intelligence, I get Z outcome.
But the market, or the poker table, it doesn't care about your PhD. It only cares about the collective actions of millions of other people, or just the random turn of a card.
It doesn't care about your expertise at all.
Yeah.
And that's why the poker analogy used in the sources is just so effective.
Let's get into that.
The idea that aces are not a guarantee. It's the perfect, simple illustration of this psychological hurdle.
Okay, walk us through it.
So imagine you're playing Texas Hold'em. You get dealt 2 aces before any community cards are shown. Statistically, that is the best possible starting hand.
The absolute best.
It gives you roughly an 80% chance of winning against a random single opponent. Now, 80% is fantastic. It means you're a massive favorite to win.
But it's not 100%.
But it's not 100%, and this is the key. It also means you will lose 1 out of every 5 times, on average.
And the human mind is not like that 1 in 5 loss, especially when there's a lot of money on the table.
It doesn't process it gracefully at all. When your aces get cracked, when you hit that bad luck and lose a huge pot of money, you feel betrayed.
Betrayed by the math.
Right. Even though you knew intellectually that the probability only said you were a favorite, not an absolute guarantee. The emotion comes from that gap, that dissonance between how good your setup felt and the actual painful outcome.
And that's where the novice just breaks down.
Completely. They start confusing a good result with a good decision, and more dangerously, a bad result with a bad decision. A master understands that a good decision can very easily lead to a bad result.
That distinction is everything. It's a perfect parallel to the market, right? You could have the most meticulous financial model, the cleanest fundamental analysis, a chart set up that signals a 90% chance of a move up.
Textbook risk management. You raise 1% of your capital. You do everything by the book.
You take the trade and then, boom, some completely unexpected news hits. A central bank decision, a geopolitical event, some rogue trader moves the market against you.
And the price just rockets right past your stop loss. You take the full loss. The process was perfect. The outcome was a disaster.
So what does the professional do? How do they cope with that?
They have to shift their entire psychological focus. If the outcome of any single event is fundamentally unpredictable, then fixating on that outcome is a trap. It's a form of self-torture.
You can't control it.
You can't. The only thing you can absolutely control is your process. That's it. The repeatable, objective, systematic way you analyze the probabilities and manage your risk.
So you have to just play the odds over and over and accept the losses as part of the game.
Exactly. The inevitable losses are just the cost of doing business. The pros call it variance. It's not a reflection of your skill or your worth. It's just noise. And accepting that is the very first step toward emotional detachment.
So to stay in the game long enough for your edge, your probabilistic advantage to actually play out, you need this deep well of emotional endurance.
Profound endurance.
The sources gave us a fantastic, almost visceral anecdote about this, the author's own gold trade. Can you detail what made that so psychologically grueling?
Yeah, that was a great example. It was the combination of extreme volatility and the time pressure, which directly attacks the trader's trust in their own work.
Okay, so what happened?
The author described being in this gold trade, and the price moved against him so violently that it was nearly stopped out twice.
And for anyone who doesn't trade, let's just unpack what that means. A stop out is your safety net, right?
Right. It's a predefined price limit. If the market hits that price, your system automatically closes the position to limit your maximum loss. It's where your risk plan is enforced no matter what.
So when a trade swings against you and almost hits that point,
your brain just screams, "Get out! Protect what's left. I must have been wrong."
Your panic.
It's a massive, rapid cortisol spike, especially when it happens twice. You have all this data telling you your position is still valid, that your thesis holds, but your deep evolutionary fight-or-flight instinct is screaming at you to flee the danger.
So to just sit there through that and trust the analysis you did when you were calm over the panic you feel right now.
That requires profound mental separation. It shows you've internalized the discipline. It shows you accept that the loss, if it comes, is okay because it was planned for. And that panicking now guarantees you miss the eventual payoff if the trade does turn around.
That gut-wrenching feeling of watching your money just evaporate, even if it's temporary, that's exactly where the textbook knowledge just falls apart and real psychological fortitude is tested.
It is. You can read 1,000 books that say let your winners run, but when the market suddenly takes back 50% of your open profit, the urge to just lock in something is almost overwhelming.
You have to endure that feeling, trusting that your system, over 100 or 1,000 repetitions, will come out ahead.
And this is where the system collapses for most people. This leads directly to that critical psychological failure point the sources identify.
The need to avoid revenge trading.
Exactly.
Revenge trading sounds like something out of a movie, but it's a very real, very human, and very flawed response to pain.
It is. It's a response to a loss of control. You take a systematic planned loss, your ego gets bruised, and you feel like the market unfairly took that money from you.
It feels personal.
It feels deeply personal. And the mechanism behind it is a cognitive bias called loss aversion.
Explain that.
We feel a pain of a loss about twice as strongly as we feel the pleasure of an equivalent gain. So when a disciplined loss happens, the brain doesn't just see it as data. It interprets it as a genuine threat, not just to your capital, but to your sense of self, your competency.
And revenge trading is the attempt to fix that feeling immediately.
It's the desperate, irrational attempt to instantly win back what was lost. It's driven by this powerful psychological need to regain equilibrium right now.
So the loss isn't just a cost of doing business anymore. It becomes an injury that demands immediate retaliation.
Precisely. In a probability-based strategy, a loss is just a data point. But when the ego gets involved, the loss feels like an injustice. The trader feels this desperate need to settle the score, or the poker player needs to immediately get even with the opponent who just beat them.
And the problem is that desperation makes you operate outside of your proven system, your edge.
It forces you to. The execution of revenge trading means throwing discipline right out the window.
We're talking about doubling your position size, maybe?
Instantly.
Yeah.
Or taking an impulsive trade based on zero research. Abandoning your risk management entirely, all in this frantic, adrenaline-fueled haze to get your account balance back to where it was and soothe that bruised ego.
And that's fatal.
It's absolutely fatal. If you lost money because of randomness,
Yeah.
and then you try to win it back by abandoning your system, you are now operating purely on uncontrolled emotion and terrible risk management.
This is how a small, disciplined, planned loss snowballs into a catastrophic, account-destroying loss.
This is exactly how it happens. The long-term discipline must outweigh the desire for short-term certainty or that instant emotional relief. The lesson is crystal clear. If you lose a big pot with aces, you don't immediately quadruple your next bet.
You play the next hand exactly the same way.
Exactly the same way, because the outcome of the last hand is completely irrelevant to the probability of this next one.
What really stands out to me there is that the system only works if you can treat every single trade, every single hand, as a completely independent event.
Totally disconnected from the past.
Disconnected from the past losses and the kind of emotional debt that those losses create. It's an act of profound mental compartmentalization.
It is, and it takes deliberate, repeated training. It's that moment you stop saying, I have to win back what I lost, and you start asking, what is the optimal action for this independent probability set right now?
And that's the leap. That's the transition from gambling to professional practice.
100%. Gamblers chase losses. Professionals treat losses as expected operating expenses. It's the difference between an amateur trying to hit a home run every single time because they struck out last time versus the professional who just sticks to the game plan.
Knowing that consistency, not heroics, is what wins the season.
That's the key.
That intense focus on process, completely disconnected from the emotional baggage of the past. That brings up the next big question, doesn't it?
It does.
Why do so many people struggle to do this in practice, even when they know all the rules? Which brings us straight to the problem of the ego trap. So if the rule is just focus on the process, why do so many people, even with very little experience, feel so qualified to offer these really strong, passionate opinions on complex markets or poker strategy? What is that about?
The author gives a very direct and pointed answer to that. And it's a bit uncomfortable, but it's true.
I'm ready.
It's an ego trip. Fundamentally, it's a social signaling mechanism. The need for recognition, for status, often outweighs the commitment to genuine, painful mastery.
People want to appear smart.
People want to appear smart, knowledgeable, insightful to others. If you can confidently talk about macroeconomics, or predict the Fed's next move, or critique a high-stakes poker hand on TV using all the right jargon, you gain a certain perceived status among your peers.
It's the performance of competence rather than the reality of it.
Yes, that's a perfect way to put it. It's infinitely easier to read a few books, master the lingo, and talk a good game at a dinner party than it is to actually sit down in front of the screen and risk your own capital and your own psychological well-being over thousands of repetitions.
The cost of admission to the conversation is low. The cost of admission to true mastery is extremely high.
And this gets amplified by what the source calls the deceptive simplicity of these fields.
How so?
Well, at the beginner level, both trading and poker seem incredibly simple. You learn the basic rules of the market, buy low, sell high. Maybe you learn what a moving average is.
In poker, you learn the hand rankings. You learn about position.
Right. And a novice masters these few core ideas. Maybe they experience a bit of beginner's luck.
And the availability heuristic kicks in, right? Those easy wins seem way more common than the tough losses.
Exactly. And suddenly, they believe they've cracked the code. They think they've figured it all out.
They're basically at the peak of the Dunning-Kruger curve. Their confidence is massive, but their competence is not. It's tiny. They mistake the successful application of a very basic theory for actual, robust mastery. The kind of mastery that can withstand long periods of bad luck and intense psychological pressure. They think they've found the secret key.
When really they've just found the front door.
They haven't even opened it yet. And the source really forces us to contrast this superficial understanding with the depth required for true longevity. The crucial disconnect is this. It is easy to know what the right move is in theory. It's infinitely harder to execute it in practice when you're facing real financial or psychological pressure.
That's where the ego trip ends.
That's where it ends. When the market moves against you by $50,000 in 30 seconds, all that theoretical knowledge about staying in the trade just evaporates if it hasn't been forged into an automatic, emotion-free response.
I think the analogy of a pilot is a good one here. You know, I can read every book on aerodynamics, engine mechanics, emergency procedures. I know what the right move is if an engine fails at 20,000 feet. In theory.
In theory. But knowing the theory is not the same as flawlessly executing that checklist while you're dealing with G-forces. The noise, the sheer terror, and the absolute reality that if you fail, it's catastrophic.
That's it. And the core argument of the sources, which really needs to be emphasized for you, the listener, is that experience outweighs knowledge.
Knowledge is passive.
It's passive. It sits in a library. Experience is active. It's cumulative, and it's expensive. It resides in your nervous system.
And the necessary hardship here is that true mastery is built by learning through losses and through persistence. That's the tuition you have to pay to internalize these lessons.
It is. It's built in those exact moments when it is hardest to stay calm. When your profit and loss statement is violently read, or when your opponent has just trapped you perfectly and you still have to adhere to your disciplined exit strategy.
So the loss isn't just a cost. It's the mandatory training session where your discipline gets stress tested.
It's the only way.
If you read a book that says, always cut your losers quickly, that's just knowledge. But that moment when you're sitting on a losing position and you have to physically click the button and realize a painful, permanent loss, that's where experience is forged.
The cognitive dissonance in that moment is so intense, your brain wants to believe the trade will come back, even with zero evidence. Overcoming that impulse is what separates the long-term master from the theoretically sound novice who just freezes up.
That moment is the crucible.
It is. It's the difference between, say, intellectual assent to a rule and the behavioral internalization of that rule.
And internalization only happens through pain.
It only happens through repeated, painful, corrective feedback. In other words, losing and still sticking to the plan. This is why the experts always emphasize that your trading journal is more important than your bank statement. You're grading your process, not your temporary outcome.
But this brings up an important point. If experience is so painful and it requires this total dedication to enduring loss, how do you stop yourself from just becoming blindly devoted to a flawed process?
That's a critical question.
How do you know you're learning the right lessons from your losses and not just repeatedly reinforcing a bad habit that you've dressed up as discipline?
That's what separates the master from the stubborn amateur. A novice reinforces a bad habit. A master engages in relentless post-trade analysis.
Debrief.
A rigorous debrief. When loss occurs, the master asks, was this loss due to variance, just unpredictable randomness, or was it because of a flaw in my input, my analysis, my timing, my execution?
And if it was just variance?
Then I accept the cost and I repeat the process. But if it was a flaw in my input, I adjust the process, not my emotions. The experience has to be reflective, not just repetitive.
So if a novice keeps losing with aces, they might just start folding aces.
Exactly. The master keeps playing aces, but maybe they adjust how much they're risking, or they look for more information to tighten up their risk parameters. That reflection is the key to telling the difference between true discipline and just being stubborn.
I see. It's the feedback loop that defines the mastery. And if we connect this all back, this gap between theory and practice to the listener's life in any field.
Managing a team, coding, high-stakes negotiations.
The rule holds true. Knowing the map is absolutely not the same as navigating the territory. The theory is essential, but it doesn't prepare you for the fear, the fatigue, and the inevitable mistakes you're going to make under real pressure.
And this is why that ego trip we talked about is ultimately self-defeating. If your main goal is recognition, to appear smart, to signal status, you will subconsciously avoid situations where you might fail and look foolish.
And if you avoid failure,
you avoid the very mechanism, the necessary reflective loss that builds true, durable, applied mastery. Mastery requires consistently subjecting yourself to the possibility of error and psychological pain.
The ultimate irony here is that the person chasing the ego trip, they end up with this superficial knowledge that just crumbles under pressure.
While the person who is focused purely on improving their process, regardless of how they look or how often they take a small, systematic loss, they end up with the true, resilient knowledge that sustains a long career.
And once that ego-driven pursuit is finally rejected, once the practitioner focuses only on the integrity of their process, they're ready for the next, much more profound question.
Which is,
If I'm not doing this just for external validation or for the rush of money, what is the deeper, more sustained source of fulfillment? And that shifts our discussion beautifully into the philosophy of longevity.
once that discipline is truly internalized, the motivation itself has to shift. And the sources offer a really beautiful high-level insight here.
Which is what?
That true, sustained fulfillment comes from being in a flow state.
The concept from the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
Exactly. It's about being completely immersed in an activity you genuinely love. It's that sensation where the task at hand is perfectly calibrated. It's challenging enough to demand your total focus, but not so challenging that it causes anxiety. And the world outside the activity just melts away.
It's pure presence. Total, unadulterated presence in the moment. The decision to buy or sell or to raise or fold, it stops being about the consequences of winning or losing.
And it becomes purely about the optimal execution of a complex pattern recognition exercise.
This is backed up by a very specific, and I found it quite surprising, detail in the sources.
The meditation analogy.
Yeah, the author views trading as a method to step outside his own ego and thoughts. He directly links the discipline of the market to the practice of meditation.
And that's not just a nice metaphor. It's a functional description.
I find that so resonant. When you really break down meditation, at its core, it's the practice of observing your thoughts and feelings, your anxiety, your impulse, your fear, without attaching to them.
You don't judge them. You just notice them and return your focus to your breath.
And trading, when it's done correctly, demands the exact same thing. A master trader doesn't become anxious when the market moves violently against them.
They observe the anxiety rising,
Yeah.
they notice it, and then they use their predefined system to make the decision, completely decoupled from that emotional noise.
So the breath they return to is their validated process, their risk rule.
That's it. They are present in the market data, but consciously absent from their own emotional response to it. When they're in flow, the execution of the trade, the actual click of the button, is mechanical, it's disciplined, and it's driven entirely by math and rules, not by hope or fear.
And when you achieve that seamless connection between sophisticated analysis and emotionless execution, that's flow. The money is just the metric that tells you if your decisions were sound.
Money is just the feedback. The joy, the real fulfillment, is in the execution itself. It's in the act of solving the puzzle, regardless of whether that specific puzzle pays out right now.
And this focus on the act rather than the reward is absolutely critical because it gives you immunity against the primary professional danger here.
Which the sources stress over and over again.
The danger of tying your success to your personal identity. The moment you start defining yourself by your achievements, I am a top trader, I'm a record-breaking poker champion, or even, as the sources say, I am a successful Formula One driver.
You have just built your entire self-worth on quicksand. You've handed over control of your sense of self to external, volatile, probabilistic forces.
Because by definition, those things fluctuate. A trader will hit an inevitable long drawdown period. The Formula One driver eventually slows down. A younger, hungrier driver takes their spot.
And when that status inevitably drops, and it always does eventually, the loss isn't just financial or professional. It becomes an existential crisis. The sources specifically warn that when your identity is tied to your status, the loss of that status leads directly to professional burnout.
Because the person feels like they have lost who they are.
They have. And this leads to a profound difference in career paths. You can compare the burned out practitioners, the ones who can't step down gracefully, with the ones the author really admires.
The burned out person has to always maintain that image of being the best, even when the internal reality is totally different.
The tragedy of burnout is seeing someone who defined themselves purely by their exceptionalism, and then they're eventually unable to tolerate anything less than their peak performance.
And so they quit.
They often quit. Not because they stopped loving the activity, the rush, the challenge, but because they couldn't reconcile their declining performance or their fading fame with that inflated professional identity they'd built.
They confused the reward, the fame, the prestige, the cash for the actual purpose.
Which was the mastery of self. They can't drop down to a lower, still profitable but less stressful stake because I am a high-stakes player, is their core definition of who they are.
But the admirable path, the one the sources hold up as the model for longevity, that's defined by those who just keep doing what they love.
Even at smaller scales. They value the act itself more than any external prestige or money. They can go from managing a billion-dollar fund to a small personal account, or from high-stakes tournaments to quiet cash games, because the intellectual puzzle is still satisfying.
The purpose for them is the inherent value of the act, the complexity of the discipline, the personal challenge of maintaining that psychological edge.
They achieve what the sources call a sense of simplicity for peace. They strip away all the status anxiety and they just focus purely on maintaining the integrity of their daily process. The pursuit of flow continues long after the pursuit of fame has ended.
And that is the hallmark of true mastery, isn't it? Because it means your sense of self is completely safe no matter what the market does.
Completely safe.
That really refines the philosophical roots of longevity. And the sources connect this philosophy directly to ancient wisdom.
Specifically, stoic and samurai principles.
We should definitely spend some time digging into those parallels because they really provide the practical toolkit for this kind of emotional separation.
The connection is so profound because both Stoicism and samurai philosophy are, at their core, frameworks for maintaining inner calm and optimal performance in high-risk, volatile environments.
So let's start with Stoicism. What's the core tenet?
The dichotomy of control. It's the simple but incredibly difficult practice of focusing only on what you can control and rigorously accepting what you cannot.
What you can control is your effort, your process, your discipline, your reaction.
And what you can't control is, well, everything else. Market outcomes, external events, the behavior of your opponents.
So for the trader, the market movement itself is like the weather. It's external. You can't control it.
Exactly. But the execution of your trade, your position sizing, and your emotional response to a loss, those are entirely internal and entirely controllable.
So when anxiety flares up during that near stop out on the gold trade we talked about,
the Stoic practitioner immediately redirects their focus. They ask, is this price movement under my control? No. Is my decision to stick to my pre-planned stop loss under my control? Yes. By realizing the outcome is external, they neutralize the anxiety attached to it. It provides immediate, practical relief.
But there's another powerful Stoic tool for preparation, isn't there? Negative visualization.
Yes, premeditatio malorum. It's the ultimate psychological prep for variance.
So you actively imagine the worst case scenario.
You proactively meditate on failure. What if I lose all the capital in this account? What if I have a massive drawdown that lasts for 6 months? What if my best trade setup fails spectacularly? By confronting and accepting this worst-case scenario in a calm, reflective state before it happens.
You rob the event of its power when it actually occurs.
You do. For a trader, this means mentally rehearsing clicking that stop-loss button, feeling the pain of that loss, and then realizing, I will still wake up tomorrow. My life is not over. My identity is intact because it wasn't tied to that capital in the first place.
That preemptive acceptance makes the actual loss less emotionally catastrophic, and it prevents that reactive spiral into revenge trading.
And that acceptance is also central to the samurai principle, isn't it? The acceptance of mortality, the perfection of form, and being indifferent to the outcome of the battle.
Right. Samurai philosophy emphasizes the perfection of the form, the draw of the sword, the precise execution of the movement, and the acceptance of the outcome, whether it's victory or death.
The action itself is the ultimate goal, not whether you succeed or fail. For the trader or the poker player, this translates into valuing the technical execution of their system above all else.
Did I perform my analysis correctly? Was my risk size right? Did I stick to my exit plan?
If the answer to all of those is yes, then the practitioner has succeeded, regardless of what the P&L says.
So simplicity, which is the final piece of this philosophy, it's not about making the game easier.
No, it's about reducing the pursuit to its core, essential, controllable parts. Simplicity, not pride or complexity, is what leads to sustained mastery and peace.
You strip away the noise, the ego, the need for validation, the short-term emotional swings, and you're left with just the disciplined process.
And that allows the master to find peace in the middle of the chaos, because their inner measure of success is consistent and it's internal. This is how you survive the long haul.
That rigorous separation of self from performance is the ultimate goal. And that intense focus on the essential, the rejection of fluff, brings us to a really fascinating meta point in the source material.
The focus on informational density.
That journey from emotional chaos to philosophical clarity is it's complex. So let's pivot to this last section where the sources start to reflect on the literature around these topics themselves.
Right.
Norman complimented the author's fifth book for being, and this is the quote, informationally dense. Every single line offered something meaningful. Now, that's not just literary praise, is it? It suggests a specific philosophy about how you transfer knowledge for high-stakes performance.
It's a really powerful meta point, and it connects directly back to that process discipline we've been talking about, in a world that is just saturated with information.
And let's be honest, a lot of books in the trading or self-help space have one core idea that's just stretched thinly over 300 pages of repetition.
They really do. So to be singled out for density is extremely high praise. It suggests a commitment to distilling lessons down to their absolute functional essence.
If the information is dense, it means there are no wasted words. It implies that every sentence, every concept gives you an actionable insight or some kind of philosophical course correction.
Which, for the reader, demands a high level of mental density and commitment as well. You can't skim it.
You can't. The implication is that unlike a typical book where maybe a few key passages or chapters really matter, this kind of work requires and rewards continuous, focused attention. Why?
Because in a high-stakes, probability-based environment, ignoring even one small piece of data or one small rule in your process can lead to catastrophic failure. The author's dense writing style mirrors the mental discipline required to succeed. It's a consistent focus on every single input.
And we can tie that dense structure right back to the philosophical theme. Why is it so important that every part of the system or every line of the book holds equal functional value?
Well, if we look at the philosophical parallel, the dense structure of the book is a lot like the interconnectedness required to practice stoic philosophy.
As we mentioned, it's a holistic system.
It is. You can't just cherry pick the parts you like. Your understanding of what you control has to inform your ethics. Every concept, humility, discipline, process, patience, presence, they all have to be practiced and valued equally, because they all support the ultimate goal of flourishing and functioning over the long term.
So the informationally dense book reinforces that idea. There are no throwaway concepts. There are no shortcuts.
Exactly. Every single element of your process, from your risk sizing to your emotional regulation, must be treated as equally sacred. If you get lazy on one principle, say you decide to skip your morning market prep, you are weakening the entire structure. The master understands the density required in preparation, in execution, and in reflection.
So if you're reading a book that is 90% fluff, it subtly teaches you that 90% of your effort can be fluff too.
That's a great point. But a dense book demands an equally dense, focused effort from the reader, and that mirrors the demanding environment of the market itself. It really underscores that theme of simplicity for longevity. Strip away the fluff, focus on the core, and treat every element of the process as absolutely critical.
Which leads us perfectly into a review of the pillars of mastery we've pulled from these sources. For you, the listener, these are the aha moments, the distilled wisdom from these high-stakes training grounds.
Yeah, we've basically established 4 core non-negotiable principles that allow someone to survive and thrive in these environments where failure is just a given.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, humility is non-negotiable. You have to embrace the unpredictable nature of probability.
Which means accepting the loss not as a personal failure, but as a mandatory expected cost of doing business in an uncertain world.
Exactly. The moment you believe your skill guarantees you success, you become rigid. You become susceptible to emotional collapse when that inevitable bad luck hits you.
Okay, pillar 2.
Experience is the teacher, and loss is the tuition. You must learn through your losses and maintain persistence. Knowledge tells you what the optimal move is. Experience, forged in the heat of real-time financial and psychological pressure, teaches you how to execute that move when every instinct is screaming at you to do the opposite.
And the only path to internalizing that is just persistence through painful setbacks, followed by that rigorous, non-judgmental analysis.
That's it. Third, the pursuit has to be flow over ego.
Passion and total presence in the moment are the true sources of fulfillment, not the external validation, not the status, not the net worth.
The crucial action is detaching your self-worth from your performance metrics. The goal is to perfect the act itself, finding fulfillment in the challenge and the disciplined execution, not the status you get from being a winner.
And finally, the fourth pillar.
Simplicity for longevity. This is the culmination of the whole philosophical journey. Focusing on the inherent value of the act leads to sustained peace and mastery.
This is that stoic and samurai influence, reducing your purpose down to discipline, process, and the absolute control over your internal reactions.
By stripping away that need for external validation, you build a resilient, enduring system of self.
And their exchange in the source material, it got really reflective at the end. It connected history, personal meaning, and self-awareness.
It did. Ultimately, confronting these high-stakes challenges, the randomness of the market, the psychological battle at a poker table, the demands of that gold trade, it all serves as an accelerated path to self-knowledge.
You learn who you truly are, what your deep-seated biases are, and exactly where your control breaks down when your capital and your identity are on the line.
It's the ultimate proving ground for emotional maturity. You aren't just mastering the trade or the hand, you are mastering your own internal landscape under the most intense kind of pressure.
And the systems they build are designed not just to win, but to survive the inevitable losses that are required to win. This has been a deeply insightful journey. The ultimate lesson from this deep dive, I think, is that these high-stakes fields like trading and poker, they are far from being purely transactional. They serve as accelerated training grounds for emotional discipline and profound self-knowledge.
They force you to operate entirely in the realm of probability, which means you had to strip away that comforting illusion of certainty that most people cling to in their careers and in their lives.
And that leads us to the final provocative thought one that our sources really challenge us to apply universally.
And it's a big one. Since sustained mastery requires consistently facing non-guaranteed outcomes and learning through inevitable costly loss, the real question for every ambitious learner, for you, is this. How do you cultivate the necessary inner separation, that deep stoicism, to ensure that your identity remains fully separate from your performance, regardless of whether today was a huge win or a crushing systematic loss?
That's the real work, isn't it? The work of truly embracing flow over ego and process over outcome. We encourage you to consider where in your own professional life your identity is attached to external results. What aspects of your success are tied to outcomes you can't actually control, and what would happen if you just focused on perfecting the act itself, finding peace in the discipline of the effort?
That's a principle worth integrating into every high-stakes pursuit.
Welcome. I'm awaiting my poker teacher. He will be here in 2 minutes. I just have the time to introduce to you my 2 books that I could edit. Then I'll jump in the call. Let's start with that. Here is my 4th book. I've written it in French. It is called in French La Voie du Diamond Stoic. That's my 5th book. Today I mess up. This is my 5th book. La Voie du Diamond Stoic. Here is the English translation. The Way of the Stoic Diamond, the English translation. And in German, I've translated in German, Der Weg des stoischen Diamond in German. Here is a Stoic Samurai. That was my 4th book. This one I have translated it only in English. I have written it in French. It's Samurai Stoic in French. Please check them out. They are great. I read them every day. Today I went for a long walk while I was in the bus driving to that place and coming back from it. I did read it and it's awesome. My 5th book. I really enjoy it. I'm very fortunate that I can read my own book. I like it a lot. Now let's jump in the call and meet my teacher. Hello, Norman. Technology makes our life hard. I wanted to join. I went for a long walk. I came back at 3 and I had to eat because of my intermediate fasting. I have to eat before our lesson. If I eat afterwards, it's too late. I had to eat. Then I wanted to get ready. I didn't have any sound on my earbuds. They did connect, but no sound showed up. I had to fix that. It's really stressful. Then I jump into the call. I can't hear you. As you see, technology is still dumb. Now he gives me an alarm. I know that I have a lesson with you. I don't need the alarm. But it would be nice if technology would be a bit smart and understand what we are doing and don't ring alarms when there's not necessary. And when I connect the earbud and it says connected, it would be very nice if I really have some sound on them, if I don't have to turn it all off and on again. Because it's just an annoyance. Then I make you waste your time. How are you doing?
I'm good. A Stoic would say things cannot be annoying, only a person can be annoyed by them. It's up to you to decide whether you get annoyed or not.
I get that.
I have been reading your book just before the lesson. I have to say I'm very grateful to be able to read it. I have many good things to say about your book. I don't know if it's good to say so many good things to a person, but they're truthful, I will say that.
Okay, that's great. You can say whatever you want. I don't take it bad. I'm never obsessed. I never get mad, even when people say mean things, as long as it's not just stupid stuff. As long as I can talk with you, if it's just to be mean, it has no sense, you make stuff up, then there's no point. If you're honest, I'm really interested in it. You don't have to approve. I think it's much more interesting if you don't. How about that, Norman? I want to fix a small thing behind me. I turn off my camera, I can hear you with my earphones. You just talk about everything, and I'll be back in less than 1 minute, but I hear you all the time. And then
Could I wait for that minute? I would
didn't you want to talk about it? You can talk about it. You can wait. It makes you waste 1 minute. We can use the minute.
I will waste a minute.
Then let's do that. I still turn my camera off while I do that. I'm back. Thank you for your patience. What are you saying?
I'm not sure a minute can be wasted if you enjoy the minute. People also sit in silence for many hours. It's only wasted if you feel like it's wasted.
I have an interesting story. Can I start with that? It's very short.
It can even be long, yes.
Then we talk about my book. I did wake up this morning at 5 o'clock. I looked at my chart, as I always do the first thing in the morning, because I'm just interested. I don't do it because I'm obliged. It's just the market fascinates me. I want to take a look. I want to know what happened. I took a look. I decided to take a trade on gold. It was a short trade. I'm shorting the market. I'm betting that the price will go down. Normally, I wouldn't have taken that trade because I only have one new indicator that told me to take that trade. But I wanted to test it. Maybe I revenge trading. I was more bearish on gold and I tried already to short it once or twice. And it didn't work. Well, I think once it works, but twice it didn't work. But before that, I had a huge winning trade. That was a bullish trade. The last movement, I didn't profit from it. I really wanted to take a trade on gold. It's a little like if you're revenge trading. You missed a trade and you said, I still want to get back in the action. I still want to be in it. I want to prove that I can be right.
People do the same in poker.
So I took that trade this morning. The entire day I went for a walk. 2 hours I was walking. It was awesome. Because there were very little people. I really enjoyed my time when I was working with my exoskeleton. That was awesome. I was thinking all the time about my trade. When I came back, I saw that I was very close of being stopped out twice. It's a real miracle that I'm still in the trade. But just before our meeting, I could put my stop loss at break even, which means, by definition for me, it means that the trade is 100% profitable. I have risk to reward that is more than 1. I don't know how much it will be. It's more than 1. I can use that 1 because it's more than that. I can lose that. I cannot go into the negative. For me, it's a break-even trade. It's just funny. What really surprised me, if I show you on the chart, you would think that was too close, that I should have been stopped out. For less than nothing, my stop loss didn't trigger. And I'm still in. It's profitable. That's nice. It would have been harder if I would have been stopped out. Then I see it doing exactly what I expected. And then I would have been in the situation. I wouldn't have had time to think it through because our lesson started. If I have to enter it again, even though I just did get stopped out. I don't like entering trades where I'm already being stopped out because if you get stopped out, maybe it's a bad idea and you better wait for a better opportunity. If I'm lucky, I make some money with it. If not, I can't lose any.
That's good news.
With the markets, it's the same situation as last time. People are very optimistic, especially on gold and the American stock market. You know what they start saying? That it doesn't matter. You always should buy. The returns will always be spectacular. You don't have to worry. Just buy and everything will be rosy. They try to rationalize it. Here's what they tell you. The stock market will from here on always go up. Because it is driven by AI. AI will just get better over time. The stock market cannot do anything else than go up. That's what they believe. They said the same thing with the dot-com bubble in 2008. They said the same thing. Then the market dropped. They said with the internet, everything will just get better. Companies will make more money and it can never drop. Then it did drop 80 to 90%. When I tell that to people, they get irritated. They get mean with me. They don't like hearing that because they like the game, how it is going right now. And they don't want any bearish sentiment. Anybody's telling them that bubble, like every other bubble, will explode. It will be similar to any other bubble we had until now. They don't like hearing that. A guy who is a trader, he went to a barista. He took a coffee and the barista told him how awesome the American stock market is and how much money he's making in the stock market. He thought this is really a bad sign. If the guy who brings me my coffee tells me how much money he makes, how easy it is, how great it is, it will end really bad. He didn't say that. He could have added, I'm going home. I will press the sell button as much as possible. He could have added that. I'm not saying that it will all go very low. I'm in a short trade on gold. I'm not sure I keep it very long. For me, that was the idea, is just to pick a long trade if the opportunity comes. Because when it drops, it goes down, then it goes higher. When it goes down and higher, that's a great place to put below the low it just made. It's a great place to put your stop loss. For me, I just might switch to bullish again. But I know that it won't be rosy until the end of times. There will be a bear market again. That is a certainty. It always happens. People who don't expect that, well, they live through it. Probably they cannot handle it. Then they sell everything at the worst moment. One more thing. In England, there was a TV show. They showed an analyst, a trader. He was talking to a crowd of 30, 60 or 90 people. He was showing them graphs, telling them, if you keep your money in fiat, you lose everything. Then he showed the different stock markets, FTSE, 2 other stock markets on the top. The highest one was the S&P. He told them how much money they would have made if they put their money in stocks. It's not that what he says is wrong. It doesn't matter what he says. It's just when he says that it's important. The best moment to buy was at the bottom of the last bear market in 2008 when it dropped for 90%. Then he was not talking. He's talking now. That's the dangerous thing. They make a huge spectacle out of it. Then people who know nothing and listen to it say it's a good idea. He said that it can only go up. Let's buy. That's normally when it turns around, it gets very ugly. I'm not telling you to short. If you want to talk about that, you need some training. Shorting a market is not easy. You have to be able to take losses. Just as I told you, I took 2 losses recently. Before that, I had a huge winning trade, but now I took 2 small losses. It's not easy to pick the moment to short the markets. I'm not giving you any advice to do that. I'm just saying that the sentiment is extremely warm for investing and putting money into the markets. That's a dangerous sign. That's all I try to tell you. It can still go up a long time. I can give you arguments why it could go up still a long time. Even that won't be infinite. It will not be what they say. AI keeps improving and the stock market only can go up. That's bullshit. It doesn't happen like that. Never did. It will never be like this. Sorry for interrupting you. I will listen to you. It's just, for me, it's really interesting. I have to think about my future because a drop will affect me. Let's not go into details. Please tell me what you think.
You seem very passionate about this. First thing that comes to mind is the investment people. I think no one in the world gives more opinions or more advice than the investment people. No one in the world says more that I'm not giving advice. It's just my personal opinion. It could go wrong as well. It's something I find very funny that it's this way. It's true though.
Actually, I do give advice. When I give advice, I talk about probabilities. I cannot tell you 100% certain that this will be the outcome. What I can tell you is you do it long enough, you will make money. That is not so difficult. You can do it. That I can tell you. That I can promise. But I cannot give false promise. If I really knew what the market will do every time, a long time ago I would be the most wealthy person on earth. There's a reason why I'm still struggling. There's a reason why I still have to fight for my survival.
I understand it's dangerous to say that, like, do this, and then if it doesn't go this way, people get angry. I'm just pointing out something and not giving my personal judgment on this.
I'm surprised that you make that reply, because you should understand that more than anybody else. Even when you have aces, you're not guaranteed to win. But if you do it long enough, you will make money. If you go all in with aces long enough, you will make money. But on one single outcome, you cannot guarantee that I will make money. The other can make 3 of a kind, he can make a straight, he can make a flush. There's a lot that can happen. The market is the same. You should understand that more than anybody else. I'm surprised that you make that reply.
I do understand it. I can still point it out that everywhere.
What am I supposed to say? Please tell me. What am I supposed to say? If you are criticizing, I like criticism. What do you want me to say?
I'm just pointing something out that is...
Maybe I didn't understand it. Please repeat what you're pointing out.
Every post or something with finances or every finance video, there's 2 things always in every finance information. One thing is it always at the end of it or at the front says, be careful, this is not financial advice, this sort of disclaimer. I'm sure you've seen that before. That is what is common amongst all financial posts or someone talking about these topics. Then another thing that's common is people always have a lot of strong opinions and advice to give on these subjects.
Let's first talk about this first thing. You must understand, there are people who have no experience of the market. They might have 10K, 100K, or even a million. If they short the market with 1 million, then the high gets taken out. They lose the million because they did put a liquidity point where the stop loss should be. They lose the 1 million. What do? They are all angry. Then they want to see me in a cage. Normally, people have to say that because of legal reasons. That's the main thing. Look, for me, even though the last time I looked at my trade, it's very profitable on gold, I have no idea if I will make some money with it, if I will get stop out at break even. And the high that there was so close, I believe that it will be taken out. I'm not convinced that the correction will be deeper than that, so I believe it will be taken out. I have a crystal ball. I cannot be any clearer than that. It's like a poker game when you go all in with aces. Here I don't go all in, but you get the idea. You don't know if you're gonna win. That's the first thing. The second thing, what was that? You have a lot of opinions about that. That's the second point you want to talk about. A lot of opinions. Everybody has an opinion.
I have a theory on why that is the case.
Please tell me.
Because often with finance things, it favors someone to be first doing something. If you get people to follow what you're doing, that usually drives interest towards that way. The rug pulling essentially is something similar. In general, let's say I bought a lot of Amazon stock. It would then be good for me to share that information so that a lot of people would be like, wow, Norman's such a smart guy. He bought a lot of Amazon. I guess I want to buy Amazon, because through that, there would be even more people buying that, and the price would go even more up, which would be even better for me who initially bought Amazon. I think that's one reason why people have so much advice to share on trading.
That you can only do when there's very little liquidity. Then yes, if there's very little invested, if it's something there's only 10K, 100K, the market cap, or 500,000, yes, then you can do that. You cannot do it with gold, Bitcoin, or the American stock market, or Amazon, Google. There it will have no impact.
I understand that, yes.
Is there something more to that people have a lot of opinions? I have my own explanation why that is the case.
Poker is similar. A lot of people have always opinions about how poker hands should be played. It's also, I guess, true with politics. It's something fascinating to me. I want to say that because
Please tell me, why do people have so much opinions about poker or the market or politics? Politics is less interesting. Let's focus on poker or the markets. Why do people have so much opinion on how you should play a hand, how you can make a lot of money? Why do people have so much opinions, passionate about it?
Two things come to mind. One is wisdom. They might be overestimating how well they understand things. Then second, I feel like it's maybe something from the caveman, hunter-gatherer times, when you live in a group, let's say a group of hunters in a forest. It's good to share information between each other. Then if there's only 20 people in a group, it's quite valuable what each people think in that group. I would guess it's just some social dynamics that it's a good thing to share between each other opinions. To me, it's a bit funny how everyone has an opinion.
Can I give you my explanation? Sure. You tell me what you think about it.
Would love to hear that.
The thing with poker, the market, is that it looks easy for a lot of people. There are just some easy concepts to understand. Once you do that, well, then you think you're a genius. You know everything very well. And people want to brag and get some recognition. They want to matter. They want to be keyboard warriors and show off and criticize and explain that they know everything better. Tell everybody how smart they are. It's an ego trip. What do you think about that explanation?
I think that's true. I think the other part of it is true, what you said, that both of these things are things that are complicated, also easy or simple at the same time. Someone could learn poker in 5 minutes. In 1 hour, know everything about poker, all the tricks. Same with markets, that someone can very quickly think they know how to guess what markets do. It's very quick. People can have this feeling that they're competent about it, that their information or opinions matter.
I agree with that, Norman. If they have a good teacher, like they might understand a lot of stuff really fast in an afternoon, maybe not a couple of hours, but an afternoon or 2 days. The big issue is that they have no experience. They don't know how hard it is to live through the variance. They don't know how to manage tilt. They don't know if they are passionate about the game enough to play it 8 or 12 hours a day. They don't know anything. They have no experience. That's the issue. It's not so much a knowledge issue. Issue is an experience issue. I take a lot of trades. I know that there are a lot of people who only take 1 or 2 trades a year. It's nice to do that, but can you really compare yourself to somebody who took hundreds, thousands, or 10,000 of trades? If you only took a couple, you're all happy because until now the results aren't so bad. Give it some time, it might change really fast. You must keep humble. I make no exception for myself. You must remain humble. That's one of the first things you teach me. You taught me that poker is a very humbling game. That was a very wise thing to say, a very interesting thing to say. It's good to live by that.
But there's something funny about it, because the better you get at poker, the more humbling game it becomes. It's like a joke in it, or something funny about it. People think it's humbling when they start out, they lose with aces against kings or something. Tough to describe. It's like the more you have self-belief that are good at poker, the more it can humble, at least the short-term variance.
According to me, that's an awesome thing, especially if you can take it with you, not have it just around the poker table. If you can be a humble guy, a simple guy, live a simple life, that's awesome. Not start getting all crazy, flashing your wealth. That's great. You are already wise. Maybe more wise than a Buddhist who should be skinny and poor and tells you that you don't have to be, that you can enjoy life. It's an important lesson. If something can teach you that and you can practice it and live it, that's really important. That's not something you can just understand. You have to live it. You have to incarnate it. It has to become your new way of being.
I like that thought, yes.
Thank you, Norman.
Some poker players came to mind as well. There has been famous poker players who burned out, weren't humble enough. Other players who didn't have those issues. It's especially for long-term success. The same with trading. You talked about how there's been best traders in the world with the biggest victories. They've burned a huge investment fund. You've shared some stories about. Yeah.
I've shared 2 with you. One was about the trader who is called Willy Woo. He was very famous because he traded Bitcoin, used on-chain data. And the other one was the guy they made a film about. The film was called Big Short.
Michael Burry.
That's him. Well done.
These were just observations that traders have a lot of opinions and they put this thing there. I didn't take it as a bad thing. Somehow you got very defensive about it.
Why do I get defensive about it? You did get the wrong impression. I'm not defensive. I just wanted to illustrate the names of the traders, to underline the fact that they are very famous. The issue, if you mess up too much, you just cannot make it back. Because if you lose too much in the markets, you just cannot make it back. Once you have lost amounts like 200 or 800 millions, what do you do? It's very hard to make it back. Because even if you get somebody who gives you again 20 millions, you double it. You do that a couple of times, you're still far away of 800 millions. Your lifespan is limited. Once you mess up too much, it's really bad. We talked about that already. We don't have to go in detail.
That's a subject that's very interesting for me because I saw this regarding sports, that a lot of sports people retire once they're past their prime, essentially. Actually, they could go through a natural course of retirement, which is just like it takes, let's say, 10 years for someone to become the best. They could go through this where they go from first division to second division, third division, fourth division, slowly retire, get worse. A lot of people, it's psychologically very difficult for them. Even what you said, if someone's used to trading for 200 million, then trading for 2 million or 20 million.
Maybe it's not 2 million. Maybe his entire capital will be 2K. It's not, or 20K. Then it seems meaningless, because even if you make money, it seems meaningless because you're used to being involved in so much money, make so much money every day and lose much money. If the amounts suddenly drop a lot, what do? It makes more sense to work. Actually, you should love the game enough, like Formula 1. If you cannot drive Formula 1, maybe There's a competition that is less demanding where you could still drive. It's all or nothing for them. I don't think that's the right mentality. That's a mistake. It's like if you play poker, you want to always go all in. If not, you're not interested in the results. That's not how you should play the game. The idea you came up with, if you cannot play football league internationally, maybe you can play nationally or regionally. Why not just go down? Keep doing it as long as you can. If you love the game, you're passionate about it. I want to be in the game as long as possible with you. As long as possible, I hope we are friends and I hope I can meet you once a week. I don't understand why people want to do something like 2 years or 4 years in university, then they never want to study it anymore. Do it until retirement and they stop. That makes no sense to me. If you really love something, you should do it as long as you can. The only reason why you stop is because mentally or physically, it's not possible for you to do it anymore.
Somehow it connects with this humbleness that we talked before, that people take it as part of their identity at some point. I'm a Formula One driver. I'm a world champion. I'm an Olympic champion. It hurts their ego to suddenly be a Formula 3 driver or to be a local sportsman, not an Olympic sportsman.
Then it's bad because it's the definition of an ego trip.
Well, exactly.
That's not why you do it in the first place. You do it because you can step out of your ego. Why am I so passionate about the markets? Because when I think about the markets, I forget the rest. I forget to drink my hot coffee. I don't drink coffee, you get the idea. I forget everything. I just look at the markets. Like the new indicator that I like that made me take that short trade on gold, I'm just passionate about it. I would like to talk to everybody about it. Nobody cares. You get the idea. Normally you do something, according to my philosophy, because you want to step out of your head. You want to focus on something else. Because for a lot of people, being always in the head is really painful. Even for me. Buddhists, they manage to endure it with meditation and solitude. They have their tricks to be able to be happy. Since I'm not that good at that, yesterday I did meditate, or 2 days ago I did meditate. I don't do it 8 hours a day. I can be passionate about the markets for a very long time. It allows me to step outside of my head and think about something else. That's the reason why you do it. If you then tell me that it becomes your new ego, because of that you cannot do it anymore, that's counterproductive. Because actually it should allow you to step aside from your ego. Do something because you like it, you're passionate about it.
I'm taking notes. I find it very fascinating, this idea, what you just shared. Like sometimes if you do something you really enjoy, you lose yourself in that activity. You're just completely absorbed by it.
It's called a flow state. At least that's why I do it. The longer I can be in that flow state, the happier I am. Even when I went for a walk for 2 hours, I managed to enter that flow state even then. It was awesome. I felt like a kid, playing, enjoying my time. There were less people. When people showed up, it changed a bit the atmosphere. Since it was cold, it's close to the holidays. People spend more time indoors with the family. There were moments where there were nobody around. I was all alone walking next to the lake. It was very nice. Even then, I could manage to enter that flow state. After working for 2 hours, I still wanted to keep on walking. I felt like a kid having fun.
That sounds great. I wanted to say a few things about your book, if you remember.
Sure. Norman, normally we're supposed to look at some poker hands. If our discussion gets very long, it will be hard. We can just make a discussion because of the holidays and skip the poker lesson for this time and do it only next week. I'll let you think about it. If you don't mind, I'm not in a hurry. I'm sure it will be interesting. Don't worry about me. Just I'm worrying about you and your time. I don't know if you have somebody else who is waiting. We make the best out of it.
I'll just go with it. Usually I have volleyball practice, which sometimes worries me after our lesson. But as it's holidays, there's no today. I don't know how long this discussion will take. Maybe it won't be long at all. Maybe it will be. It's like this. I'm in this flow state mindset, what you just said. Not everything has to be planned out. We'll see. If we get tired, we'll call it a day. If we have time or energy for poker, we'll do it. If we don't, we don't. Let's just go one topic at a time, see how far we get.
Sounds awesome. I agree with it 100%. I'm listening and I will try to give you my best replies.
First remark is overall, I'm not too far in with your second book. I hope I can write the review to this one. I couldn't for the other one for some reason.
Don't worry about the review, Norman. Just one thing. It's not my second book. It's my fifth book. It's the second
Well,
one I
for
could
me-
edit. Yeah,
For me, it's your second.
it makes a difference. I just wanted to say it.
Fair enough. I'm sure you worked hard on all your books. When I say it's only your second book, I get how it can be.
It has nothing to do. I just want to be precise. It has nothing to do with an ego trip, Norman. It's just I want to be precise because there's a lot missing. If you erase 3 books.
There's a big difference between an author who's written 2 books or someone who's written 5. Overall, I want to write a review because people should know that really. It was also with last book, but especially it's been the case with this book, with last book. The last book I read long ago, it's tough to remember all the details. It was a bit different as I had it on paperback. What I like to do with the ebooks is I like to highlight some passages I really like. I remember I wrote out a bunch of passages from your physical book as well. With the ebooks, what I really like doing is highlighting passages, then copying them to like a document I have for the books I read. Sometimes I go back to books I've read, look up some stuff. I copy like the most meaningful stuff there. With your book, what I've found is it sometimes feels like there's no point copying a passage because there's much of it that I want to copy or keep for the future that at some point you could just be like, well, the whole book is very valuable. There's no point trying to copy the whole book passage by passage into a document, essentially. Usually with most books, it ends up being that it's just like only a few sentences of the whole book I want to copy for retention. Or it could be like one passage from 50 pages I want to copy. A lot of books are like that. I find your book to be very informationally dense. That's one compliment I would give, that it's very thought-provoking. It feels like there's every page or every sentence is something profound or meaningful, or at the very least, it's challenging, I feel like, or it's provoking. At best, obviously meaningful. At worst, your book is very provoking. It's almost never boring. It's very motivating. It actually makes me want to read more of it. I feel like my brain is getting a workout reading your book because there's so many things that I agree with, or there's like new things about stuff I haven't thought about before, or from a new angle, or stuff I haven't thought about before at all. Probably some things I also not agree with. It's just informationally dense. It feels very worthwhile reading it. Like every sentence, every page is providing me with something. I think the highest compliment I could give a book is that it's not boring and it's informationally dense. For with this book, I haven't read too much of it. I'm very motivated to read more of it. It's been a lot that I have copied to my notes document. That's the first thing I wanted to share with you.
Norman, thank you. It's a very beautiful compliment you do, especially because it reminds me a passage of Seneca. He said about Stoicism that you cannot just take 1 or 2 sentences out of it, that everything has the same meaning and is just as important. With other people, other schools, you have to read a lot, and suddenly they say something interesting. A lot of stuff they say are banalities that won't do you any good. It takes a long time until you find a passage that is really worthwhile. What you said resonated with that. If you see that the entire structure idea has some merit, then that's awesome. If there's a forest and there are a lot of tall trees, then it's very hard to praise just one tree because there are so many of them. If you think that my book has that quality, it's a huge compliment. Thanks a lot for that. That's very kind of you. You are honest enough that you don't make that up just to please me. I don't know what actually to think about it because I don't think that I'm a popular writer, that my ideas will please a lot of people, that they actually want to read my book. I'm really surprised what you said. I have to think about that.
What you said, a lot of what you read is not necessarily pleasant to read. It's very challenging, provoking. That's what makes something interesting, is when it's provoking. Your books, I'm thinking of school. Let's take one subject like history, for example. How much of that is just like talking about what happened? There's really very little discussion of like the meaning of this or connecting with the human psychology or thinking about how things could have gone differently or really examining deeply. Whereas your book is, I want to say something stupid, like if you learn Second World War, I don't want to say something that's
No, no,
incorrect in this way.
no, man. It's really interesting what you say. There's one passage. I hope it's my fifth book. I talk about Seneca, what happened at that time. But I'm reading my fifth book. I haven't read it until now. Maybe it's in my sixth book. That passage is really interesting. It's a way of talking about history differently than you would do in a classroom. According to me, they just do it wrong. History should be very interesting. As you said, there should be much more psychology, debate about why somebody took an action, what drove him to take that action. But then you have to have an open mind and allow some criticism and some analysis, and they don't want that. Then you might change your ideas on a lot of subjects. They find that dangerous. They don't teach you that way. According to me, they do it all wrong. It will change. With AI, it will change. Because just teaching some dates, some events, never thinking about them, that's a waste of time. That will change in the future. I hope, at least. There will be courageous, smart people who make it worthwhile. It reminds me, my history teacher, he's not an example for that. He was a little different. He was eccentric, a little like Oscar Wilde. He did transform his history lesson. There was no critical thinking or analysis. He didn't have that merit. But at least he had the following one. He did transform his history lesson into a theater piece. He talked about the events. He told you, for example, you must imagine a battlefield. 800 people mounted on horses coming down while the sun obstructs the view. He made it very real, interesting. He was very hard because he did write his own history book. He wanted us to study that. It was quite hard. He was the kind of teacher who did make sure that out of 10 people, only 2, 3 made it. Most of them didn't make it to average. He was really hard. Everybody hated him because of that. I found his lessons fascinating because they were not boring. I didn't mind. He could give me the worst grade imaginable. I didn't care about that. I just found it interesting because it wasn't boring. He was passionate about history. He didn't have any critical thinking or analysis, real critical thinking. He made it vivid. He turned it in something alive. You can say whatever you want. He loved history enough to write a book. Give us that book. We can study it. I found that had some merit.
I guess I could say that's maybe one counter argument to AI, that maybe AI makes everything stale. It takes out the flavor of it. Because if you think of school, every teacher, at least in my experience, was a bit different, had like a different way of teaching their subject, gave something unique about it.
That teacher, everybody hated him. I was his only fan.
I get it.
He wasn't that much off. He still taught exactly the same thing as everybody else would. It's just he did it a little different. He knew all the facts by head. He kept talking about it. And to me, it was fascinating to watch, listen to. I enjoyed the lessons. I didn't care if he gives me a good grade or a bad grade. I managed to make it through it, to get enough to have at least enough so that I don't fail the lesson. I didn't care about that. I just found it fascinating.
Well, most people just want to get through with stuff. They really don't want to comprehend it deeply. That's why they hate people who set high standard.
Who challenge them.
Without challenges, how can we grow in that way? That's one thing I've learned about where Jewish smartness comes from, that in traditional Jewish schools, they read the Torah, their holy text. Then what's special about their culture is most of the lesson is about debating on these subjects. I've taught some Jewish people who live in Israel. At least one guy asked about it, maybe 2 of them. He said that, well, what else do you do in school? Then I described to him, in my country, when you go to school, is you just sit in silence most of the time and listen to the teacher talk about it. He was like, I knew about it from like different source, from just me learning about Judaism, but he agreed on that there's school, it's way less about reading or learning or listening too much, and it's way more about debating that subject. And then you debate something from one side and other side. That's where you get a deeper understanding of that.
Kidomen. That sounds awesome. However, it would take a lot to convince me about that. Unless I see it, I can tell you your observation was correct. I don't believe it. Let's not go more in deep in that. I get the idea. It's better if you can talk and have a discussion than if you just learn by heart some dates. Repeat stuff without thinking about it.
There's something good in everything. Even a stupid man might have some good tricks, even though you don't agree too much with religion or these types of things, doesn't mean they don't have some good skills.
I haven't seen what you describe. That's the issue. I've seen classes in Israel. They weren't like this. They were really bad, according to me, what they teach, how they teach it, especially when they talk about religion. I've seen classes, I've seen the teachers, I've seen what they teach and what they ask the kids and what answer they expect. I'm sorry, I cannot agree with it. That's what I've seen. Maybe they showed me only the bad things. There are also good things, and I didn't see all that. If I see it, if I can be convinced that what you just said is true, then I'll change my opinion. Until then,
I will try to see some stuff about it.
That's not the main subject of our discussion. Let's not get too much sidetracked.
That was the first thing overall that I find your book quite provoking, informational events. A lot of people would hopefully agree with that. It's definitely not a book for the masses in that way.
I say something, Norman?
Sure.
There's a passage that is important to me in Stoicism. It vehicles the idea that we are for each other enough. We are enough of a spectacle, enough of a theater, enough of everything. What I want to say, it really doesn't matter what the rest of humanity thinks. All that matters is what you think. I'm a very lucky guy already because I have found at least one person on earth who takes an interest in what I do. To me, that's awesome. We are enough of a spectacle one for another. We don't need the rest of humanity. It's all right. If I die, the only thing I get back from my work is what you tell me. That's all right. That's more than I actually expect. When I went for a walk with my exoskeleton this morning, I took a bus to go to that place. The bus is like 30 minutes. Then I had to take the same bus back, and I also have to wait when the bus is not there for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. It takes maybe 45 minutes to arrive, 45 minutes to go back. During the entire time, I did read my book. I also get that on top of it. For me, it is worthwhile. Let's not focus on the rest of humanity. Only think about myself and you. The rest of humanity, the day they want to join, they do. If they're never interested, then they aren't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change my life. Of course, it would if they would buy 100,000 copies of my books. That won't happen. I don't think we have to focus on them.
It's like a gratitude.
How much it would make me if they buy 100,000 copies of my book? How much money would I make?
Yeah, I don't know.
500,000, 500,000. I would get taxed. That will never happen, Norman. Don't worry about that. I'm just telling you. It is worthwhile if a lot of people are interested. With philosophy and what I write, that won't happen. The only people for whom that happens is people who write stuff like Harry Potter. You have to be extremely popular. Only then can you manage to get that kind of volume. If you're not a celebrity and extremely popular, you can forget about it.
I like the thought that only one reader is enough. I would even add to that even being able to entertain yourself can be enough.
For me, it's awesome. I had a very nice day today. I could read my book half an hour, 30 minutes, 45 minutes while going to the place, and then on my way back. That's a lot. I can have a civilized, pleasant discussion with you. That's awesome. I'm sure there are a lot of authors who never have that. They do all the work and never get that pleasure back in return for what they did. So don't worry about that. You and me, we are enough, more than enough. Even without you, it would still be enough. With you, it's even better. It's like a cake. You have something very precious on top of it.
It's a gratitude mindset to be grateful for what you have and not focus on what you don't have. That's a good, healthy mindset to have.
It's my journey of understanding the world and thinking about the world. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm still learning. I'm still get wiser with time. But I don't want to teach you to be humble. It's just a stoic exercise. Writing is a stoic exercise. We do that because it crystallizes our thoughts. It's like you when you teach poker. I'm sure you realize that you get better at explaining it, better at understanding it if you teach. For me, it's the same thing, Norman. The difference is that you have more interaction with people than I do. That's the difference. Apart from that point, it's the same thing.
I like setting goals for myself. I always like the New Year's time because I like this feeling of being reborn, and you could have that feeling ideally every day or every moment when there's a birthday or New Year's or start of the month or these times, and I get inspired of like making these plans or objectives. Maybe for next year I can have this objective of writing a little bit every day, even if it's one page. That what you said, that it's like a stoic practice that helps with thinking. It makes sense. Even outside stoicism, it's been recommended for psychologists prescribe that sometimes to write out your feelings. That's something I might want to try. Another thing I want to try is what I've been mostly reading about in your book, which is how luxury enslaves us and the value of poverty. I find it very fascinating. I remember as a child, there was almost nothing more embarrassing when I had some old piece of clothing, something that in any way showed that I was poorer, which related to being of lower status. I did not like that at all. I like how you said that the masses flee poverty as one flees the plague. It does seem very true now that I think about it, that it does seem to be on the forefront of what people think about, which is interesting how for animals, the greatest fear is really of starving, stuff like that related to their survival. In our society, as we're quite comfortable, no one's really in the Western world worrying about starving to death, then what we fear is actually access to these luxuries or poverty. And you really speak about it in a good way, how the more we are afraid of poverty, the more the scarier it gets in a way. If we just face your recommended things, they're like, oh, here it is, Seneca prescribed. We must accustom ourselves to it, poverty, through voluntary practice, making it a familiar companion rather than a distant specter. Let us choose certain days to impose austerity on ourselves, eating only what is necessary, dressing in the roughest clothes, sleeping on the ground. Seneca prescribed 30 days. Experience shows that it is sometimes even simpler to remain continually in a state of scarcity. Habit makes the constraint light. The imagined danger loses all its power. Then, facing the mirror of oneself, one can say, is that what I fear? We see the world through our own lens. I took from that not 30 days or continual state. I took away from that to do like a day in a month or something like that. In any case, I find it quite fascinating. I do see there's really nothing more that could take the stress off of life than this, I feel like. Because so much of, at least how I see what stresses me out, is related to fitting in with the external world. The thing with money is there's never enough of that. That's one thing that's true with it, that if you make more money, you can spend more money. It just feels like it's an addiction in a way. It's just like if someone really likes cigarettes, they over time start to smoke usually more, or if they like coffee, then over time their coffee gets more stronger. They drink more cups of it. And if they don't drink, their head starts to ache. It becomes a stronger thing. The same is true with money, that we just get more and more into feeling like we need more and more of it, and less will be satisfying for us. But what a better way to take some steps against that than essentially restrain ourselves from it. I feel that we have enough as it is. We could even feel well without more, even with less could feel more. I find it very inspiring with wanting to read and practicing more of this simplicity, which I have had it in a long time. I would like some days where I'm not connected to the internet or computer at all, where I can only read, I can only write, I can only walk. Maybe could add to it stuff like sleeping on the floor or eating something very simple and primitive. Somehow there seems to be something calming in that. I feel like adding to what I was just speaking, a lot of our modern lives, it feels like an endless roller coaster ride. We're always looking for the next thrill, for the next big, strong emotion. I watch a lot of sports. I've always liked sports and being active. Sports, it's always about that. I've been noticing recently how sports commentators are always shouting, always anxiously describing what's happening. They could be calm, like a golf commentator, just like with football or with boxing or any sport, they could just be narrating what happens. There's always this thrill element to the modern life. It's the same with even going to YouTube or anywhere, that it's always like the what title or thing we can do to grab the most attention. It's always so much of everything. Going to the store or everything is so overwhelming in that way, mentally tiring. Somehow imagining this of taking some days or many days, or overall making maybe my New Year's, doesn't have to be New Year's, just I'm saying that I could start it from tomorrow, really, how I can make my life more simple. Part of that is for me personally, I watch less stuff, read more. That would be one thing that would calm me down more. That writing habit could help. What you described of walking definitely seems something that seems to be calming in that way. Overall, I somehow see it as a more peaceful way of being. I see our modern life as being very, very anxious, always feeling like we're on a roller coaster ride, needing more. I'm repeating myself a bit. I'm not very good at succinctly summarizing what I want to say. I've been thinking about these things that let's see if I can end on a passage here that I especially like. Go on.
Please, before you take the next passage.
The next, just on the same subject, to summarize it in a way, maybe.
If you allow me just a small comment. One thing, really don't worry about what you say, the quality of how you say it, or if you repeat yourself. All that doesn't matter. And
of course it does.
A lot of times you say awesome stuff. For example, the metaphor used of the wild boar, that was great. It's just one example. There are so many. It is really interesting to talk to you. Don't worry if you babble a little or you say some stuff 2 or 3 times. Even that's interesting because it will reveal something important. Just as psychiatrists, when they look to a patient, sometimes it's just a movement or a word he said instead of another word that starts the entire conversation. They focus on that. It was just a mistake. That mistake, according to the psychiatrist, shows something of the subconscious, the way they think or they act. I don't want you to be perfect. Just try to be sincere. As long as you can do that, if you start lying to me every time we meet, that isn't awesome. Unless you do that, it's really awesome. I really enjoy our conversation. Even if on 1 or 2 subjects we don't agree, I find it awesome. Even then, I don't mind it. The only thing, when we don't agree, I just don't want to hurt you. That's the only thing I'm worried about. I don't want to hurt you or don't want to offend you. That's the only thing I worry about. Don't worry about what you say or how you say it or if you repeat yourself. If really I cannot hear it anymore, I'll tell you it's enough, just as you told me a couple of times. The other thing is really important. What you just did shows the power of philosophy. Actually, the miracle that happens when you turn to philosophy. Because you told me that we recommend to take 1 or 2 days. Actually, we recommended more than that. Seneca, 30 days. I recommended even to do it on a consistent basis. The miracle that happens is it doesn't matter if you do it or if you don't do it. The miracle in it is that you look at life differently, that your opinions start to change, to shift. That is really important, even if you never do it. If you do it, it's even better. Even if you never do it, something in you exists. It's like a voice that starts showing up. That voice at a moment of your life will guide you and the results will be better. We play a trick. The trick is we want you to be more strong, more manly, more courageous. If you're not scared about poverty, well then in some way you become unstoppable because we cannot just take something from you and you start crying. You become much more respectable as soon as that happens. The miracle is like if I planted a seed in your head. I'm not the first one who does it. Every wise man before me did the same thing. I planted a seed. One day it will grow. It will show up, especially if you turn back to philosophy. Especially if you just don't open the book once and you forget all about it. If it becomes an intimate relationship, that plant will start growing. It will make you happy. It will give value to your life, give a sense, meaning to it. The thing everybody looks for and never finds, you will find. You will find it in yourself. We just try to show you the way, to put you in conditions that what is already in you can flourish. What you said for me is the miracle of philosophy, is that you start thinking about it. It doesn't matter if you follow it 100%, if you do it once or twice, entire month, or on a continuously basis. That is not important. What is important is that you start thinking about it and looking differently at things.
I was about to ask you something.
What's the question?
You made a comment on something about being manly and crying. I didn't catch completely. What did you say?
The idea was if you're too attached to external things, then if somebody takes something for you, it will hurt you. You will be less courageous because you cannot sacrifice it or live without it. Whatever it is, it might be your child, it might be your wife, it might be some money you have somewhere, it might be a car, a house. You cannot get too much attached to it because then you cannot sacrifice it. There are always higher goals than anything around you. Your highest goal will always be yourself. That's not egoism. I don't tell you to be an egoist and not care about other people. My idea is just that you cannot be of any help to somebody else if you are weak.
I like that thought. Thank you for clearing it up. It makes sense. Money is the main apparatus that the state thrives on. You described it well in your book. You might have said in your book that even like doing one day of poverty could be good. Maybe I just didn't copy that part.
It's possible that I said it. You're correct on that.
That was the main thing I wanted to share. Or I guess the second thing, other than the fact that I find your book provoking. I have two quick other remarks I have. One, I really like this description of, well, I guess I'll read what I've copied here. Children are not free. They are constrained by law. Even when they suffer humiliation and violence, whether moral or physical, they must return every morning to the lion's den, subjected to a relentless ritual of cruelty. They thus become legal prisoners, captives without refuge, confined to the antechamber of institutionalized violence. The law denies them the most fundamental right to escape evil. I just wanted to read that. I found it's just a perspective I haven't had about school. If I think back, it did feel that way. It did feel like it was something you could cry about. You couldn't really escape. It wasn't clear why you had to go to school. It was just like drinking water. It was something that had to be done. You could look at it as in these terms, how you described it, as something very painful, humiliating to go through every day, of being reminded what a slave and cog in a machine you are. I like that one. Then the other thing was that I really want to go on.
Geez, when you talk about one subject before you jump off the next, it would be awesome if you give me 5 minutes to intervene. I wanted to praise the openness of your spirit because I didn't think you could see some merit in that. I thought you would reject it entirely, criticize it. You said a lot of good about it, a lot of interesting things about it. I'm really surprised because if you just read the book and told me how will you comment it, what will you think about it, I would have said you reject it entirely. Will you get mad? I wouldn't be sure. I would say you reject it entirely. You said so much good about it. It shows a lot of openness in your spirit. Not a lot of people can do that. If I read that passage in the streets, they want to burn me alive. It's really surprising for me. Thank you a lot.
I think school children would like that passage, though. They would agree with that.
I want to test that. I really want to put that to a test. I hope one day I can. Thank you for suggesting it. I would say it depends. If they're young enough, they understand. But it depends at what level are we. In university, I don't think they will agree with it. The age where they will agree with it is between 8 and 16. Afterwards, they're too much indoctrinated. They would reject it.
Fair enough.
That's really interesting. Do you see how much interesting stuff we talk about? I would never have thought about that, actually, if you didn't bring it to my attention. Thank you a lot.
You're surprised I have good things to say. Overall, I find I'm often negative. It just looks that way because of poker. With poker, it's just that I try to say if people do good, maybe that's what gives you this impression. Or maybe I guess it depends. If I'm honest, it depends on my mood. If I'm feeling tired, if I feel not very happy, then I'm more negative. I feel well rested, I feel happy and good spirits. I enjoy this discussion. I'm not in a rush to anywhere. That has the influence that I'm more seeing things in a more positive light than usual. I can get grumpy and be in bad mood. Well, reading more stoicism hopefully will help me, and maybe poverty and gratitude, maybe these things will help me be in better mindset overall.
Man, everything you said is awesome. I just wanted to add one thing. When I talk, I just don't spend my own day talking. I really think about it. The passage you read and how it will be received by children, I'm really interested about that. I've planned that one day I'll see the director who gave me a grant in his school. I still didn't do that, but one day I want to do that. And I want to ask him, for example, if I can read that passage to the children, see how they react to it. It depends how the conversation goes. If he doesn't want to listen, he thinks that I'm a waste of time, he just wants to send me away, if not he calls the police, then I won't propose it. If it goes well, I would try to see if I can get the opportunity and test it. I'm just saying that it's just a thought comes to mind. I'm just telling it. Without, I would never have thought about that. Thanks. Now you please move on.
Good, great. And I'm surprised. I didn't expect, like, you're surprised by my positive feedback. I'm surprised by how much I like your book. I wouldn't also have guessed I like it so much. So
thanks a lot, Norman.
Another one I have.
But don't overdo it. If not, it will turn into an ego trip and that might hurt me. So don't overdo it. Thanks a lot.
I'll try to be objective and fair. Well, maybe this one may take as more of a critical one. We'll see. The passage is like this: whether it be communism, democracy, or fascism, the principle remains the same. The masses elect and suffer a slave master. Then you write, it's a longer passage I have here, how the master does it, arrogates all rights to himself, and denies them to the slave. You deprive yourself of the fundamental right to self-defense because the state forbids it. You find it normal because every 5 years you scribble a cross on a piece of paper. And from among a few puppets, you choose the one whose face and eyes flatter you the most. It was a longer passage.
You did a very well job in resuming it, talking about it. Really awesome, Norman. Yes, please comment on it. I really enjoyed how you presented it. It's perfect. I give you 10 points out of 10 for your performance.
I'm thinking about how it is in my country, as we have just 1 million people, which is still quite a lot in my mind. But the biggest thing we have, like a nationalistic traditional song and dance festival, around 100,000 people come to one place for that event. Every few years it happens. Every 10th person is there. People watch it from home. Most people have been there. When I say most people, actually most people have attended it during their lifetime. If it's 10% of people are there every time, then over all the years, most of the population has attended it. Because sometimes people say most, they don't really mean most. They actually mean more than half of every other person here. What I want to say with that is, in my country, everyone feels very close in some way. It's not quite like a village. It's almost everyone. I can somehow visualize how I know them, whether I know where they live, because there's only a few places in my country. They're all quite close together. It just feels like I know some people from every place here, and all those people know also a few other people. I could test it. I would feel like just 1 or 2 persons away. I'd have to ask one person, and maybe they'd have to ask one other person, or maybe they already would know them directly. At least that's how it feels in my country. It's not like I'm super social. It's a very small country that if I watch the news or stuff like that, then it's either people from my school or their parents or their relatives, or it's my own relative, or it just feels very local in that way. The point what I want to say is, somehow the elections don't feel as bad also through it. Far I've participated in 2 elections, 2 local elections. I haven't participated on the parliamentary election yet. That feels a bit more distant. The local elections I have participated twice. I've voted for 2 different candidates. Both of these candidates, I have their contact on my messaging service. I wanted to share that somehow to me that makes it less of an evil monstrosity, the state. Maybe the key thing is the state has to be small enough. It has to be local enough that it feels like I could hold the people accountable, or I could ask them directly if I didn't like something. I feel like the issue happens when the slave masters are somewhere distant, if they're somewhere behind the fence. And I'm sure our country might move towards that. We also have a few elites, but the beauty of our country is it's so small that there isn't enough elites for them to have their own stores or their own cities or their own schools in that way. Everyone is forced to mingle, see each other all the time. While I'm certainly not as strongly against the state apparatus as you are, that's obvious based on the discussions we had previously. I haven't thought about the state as much as you have. Maybe it's just that my opinions haven't formed as deeply because I'm not as politically minded. Overall, it feels less bad, the state concept in this smaller country. I wanted to share that thought. Maybe you find it interesting that maybe state or govern is something that gets corrupted at a certain size. When there's enough distance between a voter and the ruler, when they're separated essentially by every metric. And I don't feel that in my country.
You said a lot of good. I want to clarify about your country and how it is in your place. I just want to clarify one point. You said you participated in 2 elections and you elected 2. I don't know if they did get elected. That you have the contact on your messaging app. That means you could write them a message. Is that what you are saying?
Then that also I've met them personally and talked to them personally. I know them in some capacity. They did not get elected, by the way. It was just to illustrate the point. I vote someone I don't know. I feel like I would know someone who would know them, if that makes sense.
I understand. I'm sure that Elon can message directly Trump, that there's a good chance he gets a reply. According to me, it doesn't make the thing any better. What you said is still true. If you reduce the size of the government, it gets better. If instead of having nations, we only had city-states, like in antiquity, it was much more city-states than nations. That would be much better already, if you had that instead of a big nation. If every city was independent, that would be a step in the right direction. The issue with that is that they will, on the main subject, on everything that is important, they will just agree with it. They will create something like the European Union. Then you have some bureaucrats, unelected leaders who take all, you don't even put a cross on a piece of paper. They still take all the decisions. That's the issue. They just take care of very basic stuff. I'm making stuff up like garbage or how to clean a park. Some really basic stuff, or how many nurses are there in the hospital. Meaningless stuff. Everything else, they let a bigger entity take care of it. Yes, if you could reduce the size of the governments, instead of 200 or 300 nations on Earth, you have 3 million, it would be much better already. That would improve the situation. It wouldn't be perfect, it would improve it.
I guess it in a way proves the point of the state being a bad thing if less of it or a smaller version of it would be better. It's like saying if someone smokes a pack of cigarettes a day, someone smoking 2 cigarettes a day is better. It's just comparing one evil to another, essentially. Lesser evil of the 2.
Well done, Norman. This is one of the ways how we distinguish evil from something good. By asking ourselves, if we get more of it, would it be a good thing? And if we cannot answer yes, then it is a bad thing. Something good, if you make it better, if you get more of it, it can never turn bad. If you get more justice, you wouldn't complain. If you get more love, you wouldn't complain. If people would be more honest, you wouldn't complain. But when you increase the quantity, it suddenly gets horrible. It means that the essence wasn't that good, and that you had that you had to be careful about it. Tell me an example where that's not the case, since you think it's not always the case.
There are things where there's the right dosage of it. You could take like
Yes, for medicine or water. We agree on that.
Or food.
Aren't real goods they don't qualify as real goods. You put the definition of a good too low. It's like if you tell me that shoes are real goods. I wouldn't agree with that. I know that it's nice to have some shoes if you want to go for a walk. It wouldn't have been so nice today if I would have to walk barefoot. They are not good. They have no real value in them. Higher value. I'm talking about something that has some nobility, that merits some respect, that you can admire and love. A real good, not something you buy and throw away in the garbage bin when the product cycle is over. I'm not talking about that. Those are too meaningless. They don't qualify as real goods for us.
I'll give you an example. That although I disagree, I do think stuff like water, sunlight are their essentials for being human. I give you an example of hunting.
The best I can give you is that they are indifferent. Neither bad, not good. That's the best.
For humans, they're good. In their essence, they're indifferent. For humans, they're essential. Nothing beats water and air for a human.
It's very hard to explain that to you. It holds true. I like that criticism.
Let me give you an example.
Look,
another example.
I
don't care about those examples.
Let's talk about the other example. Why is water not a real good? I know that life couldn't exist on Earth without water. I still don't think it's a real good. It still doesn't qualify for me as a real good.
It's higher than anything else. Because without Seneca, you could have the world function. Without water, you couldn't. To me, it's more fundamental.
The issue with that is water exists for any animal. I cannot say that an animal is a real good, other than the function it observes. A cat for you can please you, a horse can bring you to some place, but that water doesn't make him any better. It just allows him to survive. We can debate if that's a good thing or a bad thing. The goods we talk about are just not something you can buy in a shop. It's not something common that you can find anywhere. I know that's good to have clean drinking water. That's not the point of the discussion. It's to have a hierarchy. To see that there's some stuff that is more valuable than the rest. A real good for me is something that when you increase its value, it doesn't get bad. It holds true. If you can prove me wrong, I'm very interested in that.
It's mostly how we define things issue. I don't think it's a fundamental difference. But I would bring an example then of hunting. If someone's very skilled at hunting, that could be seen as a good thing. It's not necessarily better for someone to hunt too much. It's actually seen as a negative if someone kills for pleasure and not for food.
I agree 100% with the example. Then if you tell me if a good hunter is a real good, I would never agree to it. I would have said no. When you find those examples are interested, before you give me an example like this, ask me if it's a real good. If I say yes, then you cannot increase the quantity, it becomes evil. If I say
pointless.
Why is that pointless?
The better way would be you would give me examples of what you think is good, and then if I could find that it has to be in the...
Okay, I'll do that for next time. I give you a list of things that I consider good. Increase the quantity, it won't get evil. I already gave you a couple of them. I'll find more. How many do you want?
Well, just enough to find the example. Another thing that came to my mind is...
Will 10 be enough? Do you want 20? How many do I find? It's very easy. There's one word. Yes, it's the point. You try to prove me wrong. I find it really interesting because maybe our doctrine, the thing I learned in my school, is wrong. I'm interested in that.
I want to give an example, another one.
You will say something that doesn't qualify as a good for me.
Well, then it's just an issue of what's qualified as good.
There's one word to say. Every virtue will qualify as good. What isn't a virtue cannot qualify as a good. Then I don't have to give you a list. I just gave you a definition. Charity. Is it a really virtue for us? That's a hard question. I have to think about that. I'm not sure that charity is a real virtue for us. Please, could we put this in parentheses until next time? If charity qualifies as a real virtue. I really have to think about it. It's a very difficult example you just gave. I'm not sure it does. It might, but I'm not sure. Can I think it through still next year? next
But
week?
it's very important for me if you
No, it's really important. It's a really interesting philosophical subject. I know that you find it a little strange that I ask those questions and think about it. But for me, it's really interesting. If you allow, I will debate a long time with myself to answer the question if charity is a real good or not, because I'm not sure. I want to
I
think
mean,
about it.
the fundamental question was whether
It's a Christian virtue.
more.
That doesn't mean
No,
it is
no,
a
no.
stoic virtue.
The fundamental thing we were arguing came from the state apparatus. We were talking if something's good, then there can be more of that. That was where the discussion started. It seems you hold the view that if something's good, then always more of it is better. I hold the view that good is like a specific dose of something is good. Even a good thing can be bad if there's too little of it or if there's too much of it. Like, for example, usually saying something nice to someone could be considered good. Or like holding a baby, singing them a song or something could be considered a good thing. Or cells in your body multiplying could be considered a good thing. If that doesn't happen at all these things, if you don't say nice things to people, if there were none of that, that would be bad. If there's too much of that, then they would be bad. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the case for everything. It might be that a state is a thing that none of it is the best dose. There's sure things in our society, like doing heroin, for example, that most people have decided that the right dose of that is to do zero heroin. But it's too dangerous. None of it really holds any benefits of doing other than the immediate pleasure and long-term downsides and addictions and stuff like that. But it could be that the state apparatus overall is something that the best amount of state is if there's no control or thing between people at all, that even if there's a group of 5 people, there shouldn't be anything that has some elements of a state in it. Or it could be that some correct dosage of state is correct. Or it could be that it's just a good thing that the more of it, just keep doing more and more, and it's just better and better to have more and more. That was the fundamental thing we were talking about. It's quite a complicated subject.
Oh, you're correct, Norman. You asked the right questions. It's very interesting. I like the fact that you're able to formulate these questions and think about it. That's awesome, Norman. You're in the right direction, and I'm sure things will only get better from here. The question about what a real good is, it is important not just from a theoretical standpoint. To me, it's an important thing to know that. I might think about it and answer the question about charity until next time. If you want to hear it, or maybe I just talk about it in one of my book and I don't bother you with it.
It's more about defining that. It's more about defining that and giving a few examples than some specific stuff for me. It's just that charity was one random example I gave. You found it interesting? But
you gave a very good one. This one is difficult to answer.
What is good and how much is there a limit to good? I think is like the fundamental interesting question.
It is. You're correct. We're talking about the same thing. That's really important.
I get too caught up in just charity or some specific.
I perfectly understand. When I debated enough with myself, if I say charity isn't a good, I didn't say that I say that. If I say that, you say no, I believe it is a real good. You can increase the quantity and it will always be good. That's all right, Norman. Our schools of philosophy just diverge on that point. We can still agree on a lot of other points. I'm just giving you an example. Would you like to add something, or can we close the subject here with that? Also, we have done 2 hours, if you still want to extend it.
There was one more comment I wanted to give with your book.
Sure.
Which is, I'll read this, a small passage I read for this. We were talking about some 400 billion. They tried to create the paradise island. And the passage I have copied starts from this. And yet the same system that made it possible without the slightest obstacle to mobilize 100 billion to build an island in the middle of nowhere, that same system claims that it is impossible to house those who lie in the streets, frozen, hungry, excluded. What was possible for the luxury of the rich is declared unthinkable for the survival of the poor, and yet the resources exist, abundant and ready to be used. It is not material that is lacking, but the will. It is not technical capacity that is lacking, but moral courage. I wanted to add this thought on this topic, which is not my original thought. Maybe I can find some more material to back it up. Essentially, it's the thought that poverty, which we just talked about, Jared, is something that's almost impossible to do on the poor. There's plenty of examples like the hundreds of billions or trillions that have gone to create infrastructure in Africa, for example. If you have some personal experience, if you've ever given some money or something on some people on the street, the fundamental issue with that is it's not so much that poverty is a resource issue, that poverty is a mindset issue of a lot of people. If you gave a home to a homeless person, what often would happen is they would tear down everything from the home. They would completely wreck it. One is they would wreck it, or the other is they would sell everything from it that they could buy more drugs or whatever thing. It's deep psychological issues that cannot just be solved with throwing money at it before the human being is fixed. They say the same about prisons, by the way. The only way the prison system can lead to the people actually healing from it is they have to go through a deep process in the prison. We can lock them up. Then if they get outside of prison, they just go back to prison. We have to really heal those people. What you're alluding to, maybe the resources could be given to those individual people to fix them. That in Western society, it seems to be, if I think of my own country as an example, that people have more and more ability to go to a psychologist, a therapist, all these things. Maybe the quality of these are not very good. I'm sure there's a lot of wrong with that. I see there being more effort to psychologically help change people because that is needed. You have to cure the people of their addictions, their mental illnesses first, before you can just give them the resources. That's what I wanted to point out. It's not enough to just give the poor person something like a job because he won't do it. He won't go to that job, or giving them a home because they won't take care of it. They won't renovate it. If anything, most likely just burn it essentially. They will fall back to the standard they were in. If someone made so many bad decisions that they're there on a street addicted, then that's like in a market sense, the trading term would be that's like their boredom, or that's something that the market goes back to. Just because you give them temporary stuff, if they got to that state once, they're likely to get to that state another time. With 100 billion, maybe there would be a way to reform those people. The case with most of those people is they don't really want to change. If the person doesn't want to change themselves, then it's very difficult to force someone to change. Most of the homeless or people with drug addictions or drunkards, usually those people are either drunkards, they went through some very deep psychological issue, like a very deep trauma that it's basically impossible, or at least we don't know how to heal them from it. If someone's whole family died, they lost their job, then if they start doing some drugs as well, or they have a drinking problem, they're just, at some point, that's what they live for. They live for those drugs, or they live for that alcohol. It's not anything you could give to them. They don't want anything other than their addiction at that point. That's what they're asking for. They're either asking for money or they're asking for that alcohol or drug. That's the more fundamental issue with that. You live in the most first world country of all time, other than maybe Liechtenstein, Switzerland. It's very high quality of life. Even in my country, there's really very few homeless people. It's not like they wouldn't have options if they wanted to have a better life. They could. There's all sorts of institutions and ways thought of that they could get on the right path and get a job and start doing stuff, live a normal life. They choose not to. Most often they just choose to drink alcohol every day, or they're mentally ill that they're unable to do anything. And if they're not institutionalized, if they're not in a hospital, then they would be on the street if they don't have a family to take care of them. You've spoken about this topic many times in our calls, in your fourth book, in this fifth book as well. It's important to point that out. Maybe your issue is more about the gap between a middle class and the higher class and the elites. Last on this, I had this thought that came to mind of why there's poor people, the middle class, and then those elites who seem to have infinite mind. The mindset is this, that if someone's poor, their mindset is just consumption. If you give a poor person an apartment, they will just use it, burn it, whatever, sell it, just do with it to consume it. If you give them an apple, they will just eat it, then they will be poor again. They won't have an apple anymore. Middle class person is someone who maintains what they have. They have some type of standards. A middle class person, for example, if you give them an apple, they will be happy with that apple. If they eat that apple, they try to have another one apple. If you give them an apartment, they try to take care of that apartment. They have like this stability, what they're seeking from. But then the rich mindset is growth mindset. The rich mindset is that if you give them an apple, they won't consume that apple before they have 2 apples. And if they have 2 apples, they eat 1 apple, and now they want 3 more apples. If you give them an apartment, they're thinking of how to make that apartment nicer. They're thinking of how could I renovate it? How could I make it even prettier? How could I extend it? That's at the end of the day what keeps people in those different classes. It's what they're happy with. The poor person is just happy with enjoying the present. They're not thinking of investing to the future in any way. The middle class person is happy how it is. They just want the future to be the same as it is right now. They just try to maintain that status quo. Then the rich mindset is they try to create a better future. They're always thinking of how they could have more, which maybe you disagree is not a better future in terms of the stoic mindset. Maybe it's just greed. Maybe it's not a better future to hoard more things. But that's what makes the long-term difference. A pretty long comment on that.
Awesome, Norman. You said a lot of interesting stuff. If I'm not mistaken, you said that poverty is a mindset, if I'm not misquoting you.
I didn't say it, but I actually have it written out, which is funny. I think that's one thing I didn't say. You summarized it. What I didn't say, yes, it's essentially a mindset.
I've published a couple of videos on my channel talking about poverty being a mindset, poverty being about how you think about money and how you act and you talk. There's a lot of truth in that.
Sorry, if I can add one comment, then just to give a visual of this would be, let's say you want to eat an apple. A poor person just tries to get that apple, maybe even steal that apple. Then once they eat that apple, they forget about it. They don't worry about it anymore. The middle class person is something, I had a better example. Essentially, it would have to go something like the rich person would put down an apple tree, would take care of it, would have a lot of apples. If you think about it in terms of work, they also have to work more for that. Like every work the rich have to do has to be like double. They're always doing it for the future as well. They're not pleased with having enough for today. Poor is who are living for day or for week. Middle class are people who live month to month or maybe like have like a year way of living. I'm more of a middle class than a rich person. Then a rich person is someone who's more like planning like 5 years, 10 years. That's this in the way how they value old things. They always value art. They value antiquity. They value very old like clothing, stuff that their family has had long time. These sorts of things. If I summarize, how far in the future you can think and worry about how much work you do for the future. It takes more work because you have to do everything. You don't have to just do the work to get the apple. If you're hungry, I need that apple. You get that apple anyway. You're doing work that you would always have that need fulfilled, essentially. That's my understanding of it. It's more work at the end of the day, at least short term. Maybe long term, it's easier if you already have an apple tree getting those apples. That I somehow wanted to add or clarify that.
Norman, here's my question to you. Since I'm not contradicting your train of thought that poverty is a mindset, I'm not saying anything wrong until now. You believe that poverty is a mindset.
It's very vague. What's a
Yeah, I'm not criticizing that. I've published, as you know, a couple of videos on my channel. I wouldn't have done that if I didn't believe. If I didn't think that way of thinking about it has some merit. But do you think I believe it is true? You can answer with yes or no, or you can give a different answer. It would be easier if you said yes or no, but if you want to give a longer answer. Do you think I believe that poverty is a mindset?
I usually try to answer as much as possible from personal experience, right?
I know that you believe it. That's fine. Do I believe it? In your opinion, you're a great poker teacher. You know how to read people. Do I believe it? Do I believe that poverty is a mindset?
If I had to guess, I would guess you would say that there's some systemic robbery that the state leads to from the people through taxes that keep people.
That's correct. If you have to answer the question, do you believe that I believe that poverty is a mindset, or do you think I don't believe that? It's not a very good question, actually, but your opinion on my belief. You're a smart guy, you know a lot of stuff. You can read people very well. You see so many stuff in them. Do you think I believe that poverty is a mindset or not? If you're wrong, it doesn't matter.
The obvious answer is yes, you believe. Somehow I'm not sure about it. I don't have certainty of that, I guess.
Here's what it's the case 7 times out of 10, but not in every case. Your mindset does a lot. It doesn't do everything. There also your environment, the family that raised you, the country you came into it. When I publish a video talking about poverty is a mindset, I hope that the people who will listen to it are of the middle class in a developed country. If they are not, it won't be very helpful to them. It will be less helpful. You have to have the basic necessity covered. You have to know how to pay your rent, how to get heating, how to put food on the table. Then you can think about your mindset and try to improve your life. If things are just too bad, it won't happen. Yes, I agree, 7 out of 10. In 7 out of 10 cases, it's a mindset issue, poverty. If you change that mindset, I believe that you can escape. You already should be in the middle class. You can escape the middle class and become wealthy. If you change your mindset, I believe that, yes. But I also know that poverty is not just that. There are also, you called it systemic factors. Here's the issue with all that teaching and all we talk about is that it takes a very long time to improve your condition. Even if you start doing the right thing right now, people don't know what to do. Even if they would, it would take too long until they see the results. They keep poor. That's the issue.
Going with the stoic things you said, maybe it's something we shouldn't even strive.
Because it's not as you gave the example of an apple tree. Instead of just eating the apple, make a tree out of it. You will have a lot of apples your entire life. That's easy. Things we talk about are more complicated than that. People don't know.
You have to prune it, you have to collect it, you have to store them for...
Yeah, I know, but that's still quite easy. If you try to do that right now, it won't work. You could do it in the Middle Ages. You could do it.
My examples, that doesn't...
No, it's a good example. I like it. It's an example of the guy learning how to fish. He will never starve again. That's very nice. But nowadays, it's more complicated than that.
I would say poverty is not only mindset issue, it's a work ethic issue.
Of course, you're correct on all that. The issue is not 100%. It is the case in 70% the case. If you change your mindset, you will escape the middle class. You will become wealthy if you change your mindset. I 100% believe in that. The issue is, it is not just that. There are cases it won't work. They are just too poor. They would need a lot of help during a long period of time, like 5 or 20 years. 5 or 20 years, they would have to work on themselves. The same time you put them in school, they would have to work for themselves. If the teaching is correct, once those 20 years are over, then they can manage. But during those entire 20 years, you have to pay every bill and take care of them. Then it would work 100% of the time. But since I'm not wealthy enough to do that, it won't work 100% of the time.
But as a Stoic, would it even be something worthwhile as a goal? Maybe the goal shouldn't even be to escape it. Maybe, as I talked previously, just embrace simplicity, focus on the knowledge and learning and some deeper values. Maybe it's not even worthwhile to try to escape it. What do you think of that? If the goal is to live a simple life where you eat simple, where you sleep on the floor, that's the ideal, then what's the point in trying to escape needing even more? Why need richness if you don't really need it?
I have two answers for that. The first one you might not like. It comes back about the classification what a real good is. We have to ask ourselves the question if money is a real good. That question is debated. According to me, it is not. Increasing the quantity won't make it any good. That's the first answer I want to give you. My second answer is, why do you do it? You do it because the game is interesting, Norman. And you do it because I'm sure you're smart and I'm sure you can succeed. Since you will succeed, well, why not play the game and have fun playing it? You play that game. If you're passionate about the game, you will step outside of your head. You will get into that flow state that will make you happy. That's why you could do it. You don't have to, but you could. Does that answer your question? Do you think it's not a too bad answer, or do you think I'm making up bullshit?
Sorry, I lost concentration for a moment. I feel embarrassed about it.
What do you want me to repeat?
I guess the last few sentences of that.
The issues with what is a real good, that I don't think that money is a real good. You don't want to talk about that. It's the second thing, why you should do it.
Why then?
Because the game is interesting. The game is fascinating. I told you that I believe that you are a smart person and that you can succeed at that game. While you play that game, you can step outside of your head. If you do that a lot, you enter the flow state and that will make you happy. That's why you could play the game. You don't have to play it, you could. Because what you said is correct. You really don't have to. Since you don't need it, you could be happy by living a simple life. You know that a simple life is a beautiful life. Sleep on the floor, as you just said. You really don't need to do it. If you do it, the game is interesting. It might allow you to step outside of your head and have a pleasant life, a life that is interesting. People are more interested in hearing that than if you tell them how awesome it is to sleep on the floor. That's why you could do it. It really depends. You go into cynicism, a really tough way of being stoic. It's not for everybody. It's a shortcut. What you're telling me is a shortcut to happiness. The path on which you have to work is a difficult one. Most people won't do it. Does that make any sense?
Basically, you're saying that it's just like a fun activity to do because it's interesting and complicated and it's tough. I think a big reason is we'll have to think about this more. It's certainly not easy. In some ways, as I see it, it actually practices some poverty mindset values to become rich, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I feel like you have to be quite prudent, sometimes save, do uncomfortable things. Actually, there's some similarity to being poor and being rich also.
Very good remark. I want to quote myself. That's my doctrine. Stoicism doesn't teach it directly. Maybe cynic people do it. I say that a rich man should live as a poor man. Of course, you do it to the extent you are comfortable with. It goes with your train of thought you just gave me. I approve of what you said. In order to become rich, you have to do some sacrifices that will create artificial poverty during a certain period of time. You're correct on all that. Norman, you seem a little tired after our long conversation.
Not too much.
You
I
sure?
need to go to the toilet, but and I would say
I would call it a day. If you want, we can forget about poker this week. If you find the time, we could reschedule. I'm not sure that you have enough energy for looking at some more cards and taking some more time. And our conversation was so deep and so long. I don't know what you're capable of doing. If you want to take a look, what have you planned in poker?
Tough lesson. Continue last week's work on combinations. Yes.
Combination. That's very interesting. It's also a very tough lesson. Are you sure you want to do it today?
You have to ask yourself because it's always tougher for the student than the teacher.
How about we try to make not too long? like 30 minutes or 45 minutes, not try to make it an entire hour. Once we get going, if you want to, we always can do more. It's a great idea talking about combinations. That's great. Take your time. I'll be waiting for you.
I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Great. Do you want me to open a game or can you do it without?
I think it would help if you have hands to review or some tournament to play. Either
Okay.
is great.
While you're away, I will think my last tournaments and then I'll pick one.
Perfect. Good. It was longer than 2 minutes.
No worries. It was great having a little break.
Good. Let's start.
Ace 9 suited.
Is that a hand you marked for review?
I tried to mark a hand for review. It was a very interesting hand. Unfortunately, it didn't show up. I don't know why, because a lot of hand of the tournament did show up. That one didn't show up. Sometimes there's syncing issues.
This hand is the last hand of your tournament, maybe.
Probably.
What did you do here? You called a multi-way with a 9 here. We did a little bit of ordering of hand strength last time. Do you remember that exercise?
I do remember.
Do you know what's hand that's directly weaker than your hand?
It would be pocket 8.
That's incorrect. That's a decent guess.
It would be 9 queen.
Yes, good. It would be 9 queen. What would be a hand directly stronger than your hand?
9 king. That would be much stronger. Do you want a little stronger?
I want exactly the next strongest thing.
Pocket 10s.
Very good. Happy with those hands. I think pretty good, actually. It shows you quite well grasped it. It's fine if it's a little slow at first. You will get better at it. Combination. We don't really have to go into combinations yet here because there's a lot of them. To begin with, there's 1,326, so 1,326 possible different combinations. Some of them are now limited because you have an ace and a 9 and these cards on the board. There's still hundreds and hundreds of combinations that people could still have. So,
I have no idea how you come up with that number, but I believe you.
well, you could count it. I guess that 1,326. You could count it.
How did you make that number? Did you guess it? Do you by heart? How did it come up?
I just remembered seeing it so many times. How you could come up with that is, for example, pocket pairs. You remember we did those exercises last time where you put cards in front of you.
Yes.
Then with 4 cards, well, you could do it now. It would be good exercise, actually. Take each of 4 cards. Take 4 of the same card. Could be any of them. It's just a pair you will start working on. 4 cards. I put them in a rectangle.
I don't know exactly what you call a rectangle.
Square's fine. You remember how we did last time with a triangle? All the connections between the cards. Look at one corner of the square.
It's a little hard with 4 cards. There are 16.
That's incorrect. Look at one corner. How many cards can you pair with that one corner?
I can pair it with 3 cards.
Very good. Do you have some pencils or something you could put there for those connections?
I don't.
Then you have to remember those connections though. Or maybe you could take 3 cards, turn them backwards, put them there between those cards to show a connection. Can you do that?
I turn the 3 cards.
You have to take 3 new cards. Keep the square with 4 cards. Take 3 new cards, turn them backwards.
Maybe you can show me how you do that on a table. Or show me somebody who does it. Because to me, it's very hard to combine 4 cards. 3 cards is still possible. With a 4th card, I don't know how you combine all of them. They will be on top of each other. If I combine them, I can say that the first card will touch 3 other cards. That I can say because they are on top of each other. It gets very hard.
Don't worry about that. Let's go one step at a time. That first card, you can make 3 combinations. Could you read out those combinations?
Yes, my card is a club. I can combine it with a heart, a spade, and a diamond.
Could you read out one specific combination?
Diamond and club.
Diamond and club. As we're doing pocket pairs, that would be like 7-7 diamond club or 2-2 diamond club or ace-ace diamond club.
Yes, your second guess was correct.
2-2. All right.
How did you know that I would choose 2?
I didn't, right? I just said some random examples.
There are a lot of cards. You get it just on your second guess.
The saying, better lucky than good. Have you heard that?
I understand.
We have 3 combinations. We have to find how many total ones there are. That's a big question. Let's just take another card. We did the first card. Let's take another card. The question is, How many new connections can you do with the second card? Don't do the connection you already did. How many new connections?
It's hard for me to answer that.
Could you follow my orders?
I try to follow your order.
Do you have 4 twos in front of you on the table as a square?
I have 4 twos.
You don't have them on the table as a square.
Because I don't know how to make a square out of them.
You know what a square is? You just put them in 4 corners. I want some distance between those twos on the table. They don't have to be directly close to each other. Put some gaps between the twos.
There's a gap in the middle here. Where's my finger?
I would like every two, there could be a gap which is at least as large as a card.
That's not possible.
Can you place them on the table? Do you have enough room on the table for it?
I have my keyboard, but I can place them on my keyboard.
Can you spread them out a little bit?
Yes, I have what you asked me for.
What I wanted you to do next was to take 3 cards from your deck, place them backwards to signify the combinations that we've found or discovered. We started with 1 corner. You could place 3 cards between those connections. One would be in diagonal, one would be going from down to upwards, and one would be going sideways.
If you want the combinations, I can see 4 combinations in front of me.
I don't want you to guess like that. I want you to go step by step with me. The first corner card, how many cards could you pair it?
The first corner card only pairs with 2 cards. The third card is too far away, but I could pair it with that.
No. In combinations, nothing's too far away.
The first card I can pair it with 3 cards, yes.
Take second card. How many cards can you pair the second card with?
With 2 cards.
Why not 3?
Because I already did that.
You found that with the second card, you already have 1 connection that you already did. Now we're doing some progress. How many combinations are we at?
5.
Let's take the third. How many new connections could we do with the third card?
Maybe 1.
Maybe or for sure?
It makes sense to say 1. I'm not sure about it.
To point out the connections you already have, you can take 3 fingers from one, 3 from another. Have some visual aid for the connections you already have. Now look at the new third card and see if there's some new connections with the third one.
I guess I can only do 1 more.
Now remember that one, because now we're going to look at the fourth card. How many new connections with the fourth card?
There's no new connection.
Sure of that?
I don't understand the question. The first card combines with 3 cards. The second card combines only with 2 cards. Then the last card combines with nothing. I don't understand why there's 1 more.
Actually, each card you can pair with 3 cards. It's just we don't want to pair something multiple times if we've already done it.
Yes, I understand that.
The fourth card, we already paired them with the first one, with the second and the third one.
The first card combines with 3. I'm on the second card. It combines with 2.
One of them you already did.
There's just 1 more combination. The first one combines with 3 cards. The second one combines with 2.
2 new ones.
Yes, the second one combines with 2 new ones. And the third one combines only with 1 new one.
The fourth one, no new ones.
No new ones.
If you count all those connections together, how many connections you get?
6.
How many of those 6 in this visual example are diagonals? How many are sides?
Maybe 2 sides, 1 diagonal.
Do you have your square in front of you, 4 cards?
Yes.
Go through some of those connections, how you would draw the line. Draw those lines with a finger from one card to the next one to go through those.
1 to the side and 2 diagonal.
Yeah, I agree with the 2 diagonals.
With 1 card, there are 2 diagonals. 1, it's the opposite side.
The opposite side, that's the diagonal, and then there's 2 sides actually. If you take 1 corner, you can move it to 2 other corners that are the sides, and then you could move 1 right across, that's the diagonal.
The opposite side is the diagonal?
Exactly, that's the diagonal.
And the other one is what?
The diagonal draws a line between the 2 other ones.
I get that. The side is what?
The side would be, if you make that connection, those 2 other ones are on one side. The other side, there's nothing. The diagonal would put on both sides equally. The diagonal leaves on both sides 1 card. Side leads on one side 2 cards.
So a diagonal and a line. Is that what you want me to say? 2 lines and 1 diagonal.
Not line, they're all lines, a side line.
90-degree angle line between them. Something like that.
If you think of all the connections, do you remember how many total connections there were?
6.
How many would be diagonals?
2 on the side and 1 diagonal.
How much is that total then?
For 1 card, that's what I have for 1 card. 2 on
But
the
for
side.
all-
For all cards, it's that times 4, 16.
We got a different number for all cards. Do you remember the first card was how many connections?
The first card is you want only new connection. You have to say that if you want only new connections. I'm talking about how many lines we can do with all those cards. I don't care about if it's the same connection again.
I want unique lines.
Well, then there's only 6.
Exactly 6. How many are sidelines?
For the first card, we have 2 side lines and 1 diagonal.
Perfect.
For the second card, we have 1 diagonal and 1 side card.
Good.
For the third card, we only have 1 side card.
If you combine that, what do you get? How many sides, how many diagonals?
I get 3 diagonals. Also, I think I get 3 sides.
Could you make sure of that, just one by one from the start?
I have nothing to write it down.
I would use my finger. Maybe you're already using your fingers. On one hand, do the fingers for sides, other hand for diagonals.
For the first card, I have 2 cards on the side and I have 1 card for the diagonal. For the second card, I have 1 card for the diagonal and 1 card for the side. For the third card, I have 1 diagonal. It's for 1 side. It's 4 sides and 2 diagonal.
How are they placed? Which ones are in the middle? Which ones are around the middle ones? Which connections are in the middle? Which ones are not in the middle?
What do you mean with the middle?
Well, what you said was true. The count what you said, 6 total, 4 sides, 2 diagonals. If you had all those connections in front of you, some connections would be around some other connections.
How can it be around some other connection? Yes, it goes in 1 circle or on the other side. It goes clockwise or counterclockwise. But I don't say how it goes around. It goes clockwise or counterclockwise, yes.
I'll help you here in a moment, all right? Let's look at the computer screen for a moment. Can you stop screen sharing? I'll take that over for a moment. I have a drawing program here. I'll draw 4 cards as good a way I can for now. They're all 2s. Maybe you had them in a different order. Single, club, and diamond. I hope you had them something similar to you in front of you. Let's start with this corner here, bottom right. The 3 connections, I'll use this line here. I'll use something that's visible, like the orange thick line here. Did you do somewhat similar, the 3 combinations you could create from this? Is it similar to what you did?
Your square is more perfect than my square. I didn't make a square as perfect as that.
I asked you to do a square. Why didn't you do it in a square way then? Why did you make it lopsided?
You said a square. You also said that you want them to touch. I made them touch.
There has to be space between.
I thought you want only space in the middle. The idea remains the same.
Then the second card, which card will take us second here?
Heart.
Heart. We already have this 1 connection for heart, this connection with a club. This connection here we already have. We can do 2 new connections with the heart. We can connect it with a spade and then with a diamond. Then we had 5 combinations. Then we go to third card. Which card will take for third?
You take the spade.
The spade. We see here spade already. We have this connection already with heart. We already have this connection here already going spade between club. We don't need those redone. There's only 1 new connection we can do for spade, which is with which card?
The diamond.
Right, with diamond. I'll use the brown color for this one.
You have to use something that shows more. Brown is too close to orange.
I'll use a blue one then.
That's all right.
We can count on all the connections we have. We know each card has 3. You could think it's 3 times 4, which would be how much?
16.
Actually, not really. 4 times 4.
4 times 4 is 16. Okay, 12.
It's 12. It would be 12. Then we would double count a lot of these connections, which wouldn't make sense in poker. Because in poker, you said it nicely last time that it doesn't matter what order you get dealt. If you have a heart and a spade, or spade and a heart, you get to see them same time. They're the same hand. This 12 combos is not true. We have actually 6 unique combos. I can use here to write the numbers here. We could do this is 1, 2, 3. The first ones we did. Then we did 4 and a 5. Then this was our 6th combination. Why this square is nice? Because it's visible quite well of the diagonal. Then the side pieces. Well, reminder, if we have a square, then here showing it on the side. If we have a square has 4 sides, then you could do 2 diagonals, which would be connecting the inner corners. We could connect this corner with this opposite corner, this one. We could have 2 diagonals. Actually, we have the same pattern here with the combinations, that we have 2 diagonals. They're surrounded by those 4 sides, which is not like a super important poker thing. I mean, the poker important thing is that we have 6 combinations. We have 6 combinations. 6 unique ways you could have pocket twos. How many different pocket pairs there are in poker? We can have twos. What else can we have?
3.
What else? How many? Do you know already how many different ones there are? If you had to guess.
Well, there are 8 numbers plus 4 picture cards. It's 12.
Tens, jacks, queens, kings, aces. Are you sure there's 4 of them? Oh yes, tens is numbers. That's true. Tens is often counted as a Broadway card. You're right, it's a number. It's often thought of as a picture card in some sense. Go on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, actually 9. Choose 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, tens 9, then jacks 10, queens 11, kings 12, aces 13. 13, we know each of them has 6 different combinations. So for twos, we could have 6 different types of twos. Is it going to be the same for threes? If we make all those twos here into threes, does it hold true? Or
Yes, of course it does. It holds true for every combination.
Good.
Since it's 6 times 13.
Yes, then we would know all the combinations for all the pocket pairs.
Yes.
How would I do 6 times 13? I would do it
Times 10, which is 60, plus 6 times 3,
Very
which
good.
is 18, so 78.
Very good, 78, exactly. That is the exact amount of pocket pair combinations, which of all the combinations is somewhere around 6%.
Great.
This beautiful number I said before, I said 1326. Well, 78 of them we figured out. We'd also have to figure out all the other stuff, which is in some ways easier actually. Clean a lot of this here. We got the 78. I guess I'll keep the 78 on the screen. Then let's think about what other combinations are there. All the other stuff really that are non-pocket pairs have to do with one card. There's one type of card. Then that one type of card is paired with another type of card. These types of combinations. Can you give me an example of one type of card?
Any other combination? I don't know, man. Norman.
I need the value of the card.
You can choose whatever.
It would help if you would give an example. Would show that we're thinking of the same thing. I'm drawing the spades, the diamonds, the clubs, the hearts. What could be the values of those cards?
We could take 2 clubs, 3 diamonds.
Here I'm going to give all of them the same. I'm going to give all these a 2. We're going to have all 4 2s. Before with the 4 cards, I made them into a rectangle. I'm putting them all under each other. I'm putting it all the 3s here on the side. These types of connections we did last time. This first 2 here that I have at the top here. How many different 3s can you combine this 2 with?
This 2, I can combine it with 4 cards.
Exactly. We can draw those combinations. Do you like my drawing or not really?
It's awesome now.
Was it better with doing it on the cards on the keyboard or with looking at this drawing?
I like it more like this.
Maybe I should draw more then. We could have these 4 connections. 1, 2, 3, and 4. How many connections could you have with the second 2?
Also 4.
And with the third one?
4.
Fourth one?
4.
Would there be any overlap? You remember with the...
No overlap.
They would all be new connections.
Yes.
Because we would always be using one completely new part. In total, how many combinations could you do between 2s and 3s?
This time it is 4 times 4, which is 16.
Exactly.
No, I finally get my 16.
You got the question, you had the answer, you needed just the correct question. Here we got the 16 combinations. The question would be, we know that stuff like 2 and a 3 together, there's 16 combinations. We can pair a 2 with a lot of different cards. We can pair it with a 3.
We can pair it with 12 cards.
One less than the 13 we have, because not with the 2, because that would be a pocket pair. We already did the combos for 12 cards exactly, which means the total combinations for a 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, all these until 2 and an ace would be 60 times 12, like you said.
I agree with that.
That would be 16 times 10, 60, plus 16 times 2, which is 32, which is already 192. Just the unpaired with a 2, there's already more than double than all the pocket pairs combined. That we had 78 was all pocket pairs.
Yeah.
2s, 3s, 2 aces. There's a lot more of the unpaired hands.
Yeah.
There's still a lot more to go because the total number, what I said, was 1326. What are we missing? If we have this number and we have the 78, how do we get to this big number?
I guess we have to do the same now with 4. This time, can we just move up and make the combination with 3 and 4? Forget about the 2, or do we have to include the 2? I guess we have to include the 2 with the 4.
Because we already did the 2, this multiplying by 12 here.
Then we have to multiply by 11, then by 10, then by 8, until we have done it all.
Exactly. One more thing, very good you noticed that. One more thing, we wouldn't move to a 4 immediate. We would first do with a 3, and we would find the 3, 4. I mean, it's right that it would be with a 4. Be all the 3s. 3, 5, 3, 6. You're absolutely right what to say, that there would be now 11 of them, one less.
So it's 16 times 11.
Because the first one we already did. We already just counted for it with the 2s. It would be 1611, which is going to be this number, but it's going to be 16 less of this number. It's going to be 176. Then we would have that 16 less than this. It's 1 multiplier less than this.
And the next one would be 160.
It would be 160 for the 4s, exactly. For the 4, 5, 4, 6, 4, 7, all the way to 4 ace. Then we would be on 160. As we would go along all these unpaired hands, we would get a big number, which would be less than this, because this includes the pocket pairs. It would a big number, something like 1,200 something for all the unpaired hands. I will share these numbers with you here, which
I get how you get the 1,326.
actually a nice breakdown here. Finish on. It is this one. Just a breakdown of this. It's the pocket pair, which there's 78 combinations. Then there's everything else. The everything else you could split into 2 categories: suited hands and off-suited. Which do you think there's more, suited or off-suited?
Off-suited.
Exactly, off-suited's more. And off-suited, actually, just to give those numbers as well, suited hands are 312 combinations. Off-suited is 936 combinations. All this together is this 1326.
Awesome.
This is some proportions of the overall combinations. That's the answer of how to get to that number.
Great, Norman. Thank you for explaining that in detail to me.
I'm sure you won't forget it. Do you want to look at the ace-9 hand?
We can finish with that if you still have time. A lot of energy. Your energy came back. I agree with that. Talking about poker gave you more energy.
Interesting how it works that
Let's see what they do.
essentially a pot-sized all-in here. This is actually a great hand where we can start to use our knowledge of combinations. One more thing here. Let's see what player 8 does first.
He didn't go pot size. He didn't go do an all-in. He left something in.
But never folded.
I know he won't.
That's why I say it. Even though it's not on the table, if he won't let that go, it's less than 1% that he won't put that last chip on the table. All right, let's see what player 8 did before we look at what we should do. Perfect. I want to go into combinations here. First, we should establish what hands. Let's start from the top. What's the strongest hand on this board?
Would be king.
Can player 7 have pocket kings?
Yes.
That would be a bit unusual. Why would I say it's unusual? Here we need to know what player 7 did pre-flop.
Did they limp? I don't remember.
Go back for that. Look at the start.
What did they do?
They actually raised. They can have the very best hand also.
They raised. He could do that with pocket kings.
Can you click forward to pause spot where we were before? Here. They can have kings. The question is, how many combinations of kings are there? And you now know that all pocket pairs, there's how many combinations?
I don't remember the number calculated.
Not the total amount, but for each one, how many combos were for pocket twos?
6.
Okay, and for kings, it's the same, right?
Yes, 6.
The total amount was 78. That you got by 13 times 6. That's not relevant right now. We're worried about pocket kings. One king is missing. As you had your pocket twos in front of you, you can now remove one corner. How many connections did that one corner have, that first corner?
3.
If you remove that, there has to be these connections less. How many combinations does that leave?
3.
It only leaves 3. Pocket kings, the amount of combinations is now halved. There's only half of them left. It was 6. There's only possible 3. That's what we also did last time with the triangle of putting 3 cards in a triangle. 3 combinations of pocket kings. The opponent could have them. These are some things that beat us. What's the second strongest hand on this board?
Pocket 9s.
The opponent have that.
Yes.
How many 9s are left in the deck?
There are 3 9s left.
You can also use your own card information here.
With my card, he only has 2 cards left. So
Good
one
ones.
combination.
One combination. What's our combination counter?
4.
It's on 4. What's the next strongest hand?
2.
Can this player have pocket twos?
I don't think so.
Okay, then we're gonna skip over that. We're not gonna add it to our counter. What's our counter?
We had 4. 3 for the kings, 1 for the 9.
All right. We should remember that was our counter as we crossed over the 3 of a kind. What's the next strongest hand after pocket twos?
Pocket aces.
Not so fast. There's something weaker than 3 of a kind, better than aces.
It would be a straight. He cannot make a straight. Cannot have a straight.
Strong 3 of a kind. There's something essentially, fundamentally that's weaker
2
than 3
pairs.
of a
2 pairs.
Do not forget about 2 pairs.
Can he have king 9? Probably.
Can he have that suited or also off-suited?
He can have king 9 of hearts, so it could be suited.
It's not a question if it's suited, it's a question, can it be off-suited?
King 9. Why could it not be off-suited? There's 1 king and 1 9, but there's still a lot of 9s and a lot of kings left.
No, the question is more of, would he play an off-suited king 9 pre-flop? Do you think he would raise it? Should we use them?
Probably not. Probably he would only do it
Okay.
with a suited hand.
Then let's only do the suited king 9s. How many different suits are available for king 9 to be suited?
2 suits.
Which suits?
Heart and spade.
Look at your own cards.
I have already a spade for a 9.
Does that influence things?
Yes. Just 1 card, hearts. Can only have the king of hearts and the 9 of hearts. Only 1 suited card.
How many connections or combinations is
1.
our counter at now?
5.
Is there any other 2 pairs he would play like this pre-flop?
Is there any other combination you would play like this pre-flop? I don't think so.
What other 2 pairs? What's the next strongest hand after king 9?
We're not talking about 2 pairs anymore. We're talking about 1 pair.
No, still talk. There's other 2 pairs.
2 pairs. Okay, well, he could queen king.
Pairs. You have to use the cards on the board for 2 pairs.
I don't think he can make a pair with king 2 or 9 2.
Yeah, I still wanted you to say them and then we can dismiss them. I agree with you, but they're possible in theory, but in practice he wouldn't play those cards. What would his next strongest hand be in practice after king 9?
King 2.
No, you said he wouldn't play king 2.
He cannot make 2 pairs if he doesn't pick something on the board.
Exactly. Then has to be something else than 2 pairs. I know that's where you were going at first. I just wanted you to name what hands he wouldn't have also.
For me, the next highest card is pocket aces. So maybe there's something else.
It would be 9-2. He doesn't play that. It would be aces. You're correct. How many combinations of aces could he have?
The same amount than with 2, 6.
Is there any aces already dealt out to someone?
There's 1 aces for me. 3 lines missing, which makes only 3 combinations left.
Good. Do you know what our combination counter is at?
We were at 5. We have to add 3 combinations, which will jump up to 8.
Very good. What's the next strongest after an aces?
Kings.
No, kings was the first strongest, not kings.
Queens.
There's stuff between queens and aces, a lot of stuff between queens and aces on this board. What's weaker than aces but stronger than queens?
Weaker than aces, stronger than queens. There's only king. 1 pair with a king, so he makes 1 pair with that.
Okay, and what's the best of that? What's next after aces?
Ace king.
How many combinations for ace king?
If I'm not mistaken, there are 6 combinations for the king and there are 3 combinations for the ace.
How I would solve it is, how many aces, how many kings are in the deck?
There are 2 aces in the deck.
Oh.
No, there are 3 aces in the deck.
And how many kings?
There are 3 kings in the deck.
The easiest way you could find the combinations for this, you could just multiply those.
3 times 3, it would be 12. 3 times 3 is 9, I'm sorry.
Essentially, it would be, you take the first ace, you compare it with 3 different kings. You take the second ace, you compare it with 3 different kings. You take the third ace, you compare it with 3 different kings. You would get 9 there. If you add that to our counter, do you remember what our counter was on?
8.
We can add 9 new combinations to it. We get to what?
17.
Perfect. Let's remember that. What's the next strongest hand after ace?
Ace king. It would be queens.
No, there's still other kings.
Okay. Yeah, then ace king, ace queen.
It's not to do with the ace.
So it's king, ace, king, queen, king, jack, king, 10.
What's the next strongest? What's
King,
the next?
queen.
How many kings in the deck? How many queens?
3 kings, 4 queens.
How many combos is that?
A lot.
Well, we have to do 3 4 times. What's 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3?
If it's 3 4 times, it is 12.
Why is it 3 4 times?
Because there are 3 kings and 4 queens.
Each king, we can do 4 lines with all the 4 queens. We get 4 lines with number 1 king.
Queens, we should be able to make 6.
That's pocket pair 6 queens. We're not at that yet. We're just doing the king.
Yeah, I said pocket pair queens. We are at king. For the king, there are 3 combinations. For the queen, there are 6 combinations. That should only make 9 combinations.
That's pocket pair.
For the queen, how many combinations are there? There are 12 combinations for the queen. Is that correct?
What is the queen? There is no hand like the queen in poker.
Queens, pocket queens, pocket queens. How many combinations do we have for?
We shouldn't talk of pocket queens yet.
Sorry, I always mess it up. For king queens, how many combinations are there? How many times can I combine queen and king?
Exactly.
12 times for queen and king, 12 times. Is that the correct answer?
Yes, because there's 3 kings in the deck and 4 queens. So you can add that to our combo counter.
The 3 kings make how many combinations? I don't know, but just king, queen makes 12 combinations. Why is that? Because I can make 12 lines.
And to visualize it, you could put 3 kings in front of you on one side and 4 queens on the other side. Each king you can connect with a new queen then.
Okay, wait.
It's a bit tough. Do you know where we are with our combo?
17, 12.
Well, then separate 12 into 10 and 2. Do 17 plus 10.
I can do it straight. It would be 29.
Very good, 29. Then after King Queen, what's the next strongest hand?
King Jack.
Could this player play King Jack?
Yes.
Would he play only offsuited or suited or both?
Let me see my range. King Jack. Offsuit. No, I don't think he would play offsuit. He would only play suited.
How many combinations for King Jack suited?
Just one? Or maybe more. Just one. He can only have King Jack suit, King Jack.
So-
There's only one spade, one diamond king, one diamond jack. There's only one combination. I'm mistaken, Norman?
I'm thinking how to explain this.
Oh, he has King Jack suited. Then he has one pair of kings. He can make a lot of kings. He can have a lot of jacks. So it's more than one combination. It's 12 again.
Remember for King Jacks, you said offsuited or suited, or which one you said?
I said only suited.
For suited, what does it mean, suited?
It means they both have to have the same suit. But one king is already out. One diamond is out.
What possibilities are left there for King Jack? Could be an example of them being same suit.
It would be heart, it would be clubs and spades. 3 suits.
Maybe 12.
Then it should be less. It should be only 3 combinations.
What's our counter if we add those?
We were 29 plus 3, which would make 32.
You're pretty good at keeping track, memorizing where you were at. Most people would forget it more. You're right, we're at 32.
Great.
What would be next after King Jack?
King Jack. King 10.
Would the opponent have it suited, offsuit?
King 10. Even suited is a little hard to play that even suited.
Then let's skip over it if we think the player wouldn't have it. So what would come after that he would have?
Can we talk about my pocket queen, or is that
Only-
still not good?
Are you sure there wouldn't be any other king one pair here would have?
I don't think we can give him any more kings.
Good.
Combination.
Go to queens. How many queens in the deck?
4.
We started with the combinations for pocket pairs. You remember that square thing we did? How many combos would it?
It would be 6.
Exactly. Add that to the counter.
If I'm not mistaken, we are at 32 plus 6, which would make 38.
You're right. What's next best hand on this board?
Jacks.
How many combos?
6.
Add that to our counter.
38 plus 6 is 44.
Good. What's the next strongest hand?
It would be pocket 10s.
How many combos for that?
6.
Add that to our counter.
Now we have 50.
We found 50. What would be the next strongest hand?
It would be pocket 9.
That would be actually very strong hand. We already talked about that in.
Oh yeah, sorry, it's already on the board. It would be pocket 8.
Oh, you again missed something between tens and pocket eights. It's not a pocket pair, it's the one pair thing. If you order hands by hand strength, then you could have something weaker than tens but stronger than eight.
Yes, it would be 9 ace. You could have the same card that I have.
Right. Or maybe queen 9 or maybe jack 9. These would already be hands weaker to us. With a ace 9, are we worried if he has ace 9?
It would be split.
Good. That's where it finished for us, that pocket tens was the last hand that troubled us. And we got to 50 combinations that beat us.
Okay.
We got hands pocket kings, we got hands pocket nines, pocket twos, we got hands king 9 suited, we got hands ace king, king queen, we got king jack, we got king 10, we got pocket queens, we got pocket jacks, we got pocket tens, we got 50 combinations. Does that seem a lot or little to you?
Seems a lot.
It seems a lot. What percent range do you have? If you look at your ranges, do you have a percentage there of how many percent hands there is?
No, I don't. No.
Usually those early position ranges. You could tell me what's the weakest hand in your range that you were looking for the player?
For player 7 for me?
Yeah,
Player 6?
for the player you were just looking those hands he could have. What's his weakest hand there?
I put him on a very tight range, on under the gun +1
Right.
range.
What's the weakest hand there?
It would be pocket 5s, but I don't think he plays that.
I know, for unpaired hands, what would it be?
For unpaired hands, it would be ace 10 offsuit. More likely ace jack offsuit.
That's something around the 16% range, you said. Something like that.
Yes.
We know that there's total of 13,000 26 combos. 16% of that is something around 200 combos. That means he total, to begin with, if we looked at whole range, was something like 200 combos. Those 200, we found how many that beat our hand.
50.
Does that seem dangerous or not dangerous?
It's 1 out of 4.
Would you expect him to bet his ace-10 like this on the flop, or his pocket fives to bet like this? If he bet all his hands, it wouldn't be too dangerous. Then he'd be 1 in 4 times. Do you expect player 7 to do this move with all his hands, or only his best hand?
Only his best hand.
Then it might be way worse than 1 in 4. Do you see that?
Yes.
Right? Because if he had pocket fives, pocket sixes, he probably wouldn't do that with those combinations.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That 50 combination might be pretty much everything he has at this point. What's the hope for us to call this?
Not good.
Not too good.
Close to 0.
We have some outs also. How many outs we have?
We have 3 outs for an ace. We cannot make a flush. That would be all. Can we make a straight? I don't think so.
What about a 9?
Yes, I could give him 2 more outs for a 9. 5 outs.
If our opponent has pocket aces, how many outs do we have?
Then we only have 4 outs.
Who would win on an ace if they have ace?
Then they make 3 of a kind and we would only make 2.
2 pair, right?
2 pair.
So how could we beat their aces?
We can't.
Can we beat their aces if we hit a 9?
Yes, then we can.
And what they would make?
If he has pocket 9s, we can't. If not, yes.
No, if he has aces, can we win on a 9?
No, we can't.
Why not? What would we make on another 9?
He would make a full house.
No. What would we make on a 9?
We would make a full house.
We wouldn't.
I don't understand.
What would we make if the turn card's a 9?
If the turn card is a 9, we would make a 3 of a kind.
Okay. And who would win, us or their aces?
We would win.
Are 9s outs for our hand?
9 outs, you say?
Is a 9 an out for our hand?
Yes, a 9 is an out for our hand.
Okay. It's just I'm trying to point out that how many...
Yeah, you're correct in asking how many 9s left? 2, so 2 outs for the 9.
If he has aces, we have only 2 outs. We wouldn't have 5 outs then. That's what I'm pointing out. If he has pocket kings, how many outs we have then?
I don't know. How can I beat 3 of a kind?
Well, can you beat with an ace or a 9?
I don't think I can, Norman.
You cannot. So you would have no immediate outs against 3 of a kind. Why I'm saying this is how many outs we have also depends on what he has.
Yes, I understand.
So if he has pocket kings, that's worse news than if he has pocket queens. If he has pocket queens, we have more outs. If he has kings, we have less outs. But in any case, it's not looking very rosy for us. There's 50 combinations that you so nicely counted that beat our hand.
Great.
This mathematical reality makes some decisions more obvious once knowing that. It's more obvious why we should do what in this scenario.
We should fold.
Because there's a lot of strong hands that beat our hand.
Let's see if I did it. Yes.
I thought this was your last hand of the tournament. And calls here. But okay, good, you folded. Well, in any case, we've done super long today. Pretty crazy that we went so far.
That means in the next occasion I will have to give you a bonus again. At least.
Only if you feel like I deserve it.
Of course you do, Norman. I'm not the most wealthy man on earth. I don't know when I will be able to do it. I keep it in mind as soon as possible I do it.
Don't overextend yourself in that way.
I don't want to make a small bonus. I want to do it at least the same amount I did last time. If you remember, maybe you do. I don't know when I will have enough cash lying around for that. But I'll think about it as soon as possible. I'll do it. Don't worry about that, Norman. Give me a little time.
You're under no obligation to do so.
Thanks a lot, Norman. It was really an awesome lesson. The philosophic part was fascinating. I really enjoyed talking it through with you. The rest was awesome. You were very patient in explaining me the combination, which I normally don't want to do, but once we get into it, I find it interesting. I enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for that, Norman.
A very small philosophical thought. Sometimes the most growth is in things we do not want to do.
You're correct. Up to a certain extent. It still has to be in the right direction. It still has to have some meaning. Just do stuff you don't like won't make you any better. If it is regarding something that is important, yes, then yes, it could help a lot. Take care. I hope you enjoy the holidays, if you take any, and I'll see you in 1 week, if nothing prevents that.
Yes, hope for the best, exactly. It was nice seeing you, enjoyed our chat, and I'll be enjoying reading more of your book as well.
Great. Take care, Norman. Thanks a lot. It was awesome. Bye-bye.
I think so too. Bye.